Chapter 927. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. It was a small box of 3 in a box with various flavors. Little Marquis said that he liked the blueberry flavor the most. He used to think that it was a golden sore medicine, but he didn't expect it to be used like this. As an ancient person, he naturally didn't know how to use it, so it could only be. Gu Jiao hated that she couldn't bang her head on the pillow and die. She was going to lose her memory. She was going to lose her memory. The sky was completely dark. Gu Jiao was very tired. It wasn't the kind of tiredness that one would feel after a battle, but a kind of soreness and weakness that she couldn't describe. You didn't control yourself. She complained first. Young people need to control themselves. Xiaoheng nodded with a smile. Yes, it's this husband's fault. Then, in order to express my apology, this husband will go and get some food for my wife? Gu Jiao raised her small chin and said seriously, seeing that your attitude can be considered sincere, okay? The light in the room was dim to begin with. After that ray of twilight slipped away, the room was completely dark. Xiaoheng was worried that the light would hurt her eyes, so he didn't light the lamp. He tidied up and planned to go to his mother's courtyard to pay his respects. He also planned to ask the chef to make some hot food and send it over. Just as he arrived at the entrance of Lanting Courtyard, he bumped into Eugene, who was carrying a food box. Eugene came to deliver food for the two of them. It had been an entire day, so they would starve if they didn't eat. A trace of embarrassment flashed across Xiaoheng's face. Fortunately, there was the cover of the night. He pretended to be calm and greeted Eugene. Aunt Eugene. Eugene couldn't hold it in any longer and burst out laughing. Sleeping so late, everyone knew what was going on. Xiaoheng could only lie flat and let himself be mocked. This was just Aunt Eugene. When he saw his parents later, that would be. Eugene glanced at him and smiled. All right, the princess and the marquis took ye out. You can come and pay your respects tomorrow. Xiaoheng heaved a sigh of relief. Eugene passed the lunchbox to him and told him and Gu Jiao to eat while it was still hot. Before she left, Eugene looked at him meaningfully and pointed at her neck. Xiaoheng understood. He coughed lightly and returned to the Lanting courtyard with the food box. Gu Jiao had fallen asleep again, the kind that couldn't be woken up. Xiaoheng placed the lunchbox on the table, cleaned up the room, and lit a weak oil lamp. He carried the oil lamp in front of the bronze mirror and looked at the place that Eugene had reminded him of. He suddenly smiled. This girl. He placed the oil lamp on the table and lifted the curtain to see how she was doing, only to find that her body was even worse than his own. This was awkward. So it's really because I didn't control myself. He quickly covered Gu Jiao with a blanket. Gu Jiao felt hot and turned over. Her face, which was originally facing the inside, suddenly turned to face him. Earlier, the room was too dark, so Xiaoheng didn't have a chance to see her face. Now that he used the light of the oil lamp to take a closer look, he was so shocked that he directly picked up the stool on the ground. Who are you? Oh. Gu Jiao groaned in her sleep. He was startled and seemed to wake up from a dream. He carefully looked at her face again. It was her lips, nose, and eyebrows, but the blood-red birthmark on the left side of her face was gone. It was white and flawless. She was as beautiful as a sleeping fairy. Xiaoheng was stunned. He even forgot about the stool in his hand. His hand loosened and the stool fell on his shoulder. He cried out in pain and quickly grabbed the stool to prevent it from falling on the ground and waking her up. He looked at the blood on the brocade handkerchief, and his gaze fell on her beautiful face again. He muttered in disbelief. It really is the chastity mark. Gu Jiao didn't know anything about her appearance. She slept until the morning of the 20th. Xiaoheng had woken up early and was sitting in front of the window reading a book. The morning light shone through the window and fell on his handsome face. Seeing such a pleasing scene early in the morning, Gu Jiao was in a very good mood. Xiaoheng had been in this pose for half an hour, and his body was almost stiff. Finally, he was able to show his perfect and handsome side to a certain someone. He calmly put down the book and turned to look at her with a faint smile. You're awake. Did you sleep well? Are you tired? Her husband looked really good when he smiled. Gu Jiao couldn't help but curve her lips. She didn't know how enchanting her smile was. I'm much better, she said. I'm someone who has fought in a war, so I still have some strength. Then she stood up, but her legs gave way and she fell back down. Gu Jiao. Xiaoheng. Gu Jiao sat for a while and finally got used to it. She looked at the pajamas on her body and said, Did you put it on for me? Yes. Xiaoheng nodded. Gu Jiao said, Thank you. Xiaoheng smiled gently. It's my honor. Shouldn't he be blushing and saying that if you mind, I won't make decisions on my own next time? Gu Jiao narrowed her eyes and looked at a certain someone. His skills had improved. However, this kind of husband was also very interesting. Gu Jiao looked away and asked, How many days did I sleep? 2 days, Xiaoheng said. You slept for so long. No wonder your voice is not hoarse anymore. Gu Jiao muttered to herself and asked seriously, Then did I miss serving tea to the princess and the marquis? She remembered that before she got married, her mother had reminded her that she had to serve tea to her parents-in-law on the second day of the wedding. If the other relatives in the residence were also present, then she had to go and greet them. Old Madame Xiao and Old Master Xiao had both passed away. The second branch and Marquis Xuanping's 2 illegitimate sons were far away in the east guarding the border. There was no one else in the residence that she needed to meet. Xiaoheng said, It's okay. They weren't here yesterday. Are they here today? Gu Jiao asked. Xiaoheng smiled gently. You have rested well. They are here. Gu Jiao did not like to look in the mirror after she came to ancient times because of the birthmark on her face. Out of sight, out of mind. Therefore, even after she finished washing up, Gu Jiao still did not notice the changes on her face. Xiaoheng chose the latter between telling her and letting her discover it herself. Yuya heard the movement in the room and came in to help Gu Jiao wash up. As soon as she entered the room, she was stunned. She looked at the unfamiliar woman in the room and said, You are. What is it? Gu Jiao asked strangely. It was the young Miss's voice. This person, young Miss. It was no wonder that Yuya did not recognize her. The birthmark on her young Miss's face was too iconic. If the birthmark suddenly disappeared, anyone would suspect that the wrong person had entered the room. Young Miss Yu. She stammered and could not speak. She looked at the young master beside her. The young master shook his head slightly at her. She understood and suppressed the stormy waves in her heart. She said, Why did you come out like this? You are married. You can't comb your hair like this. Gu Jiao was a fool in the village. No one asked her what kind of hairstyle she wore. After coming to the capital, her family knew that she and Xiaoheng were not a real couple. Therefore, they did not force her to comb her hair like a married woman. I don't know how to, Gu Jiao said. It was very difficult to comb a married woman's hair. Let me do it, Yu said with a smile. Gu Jiao directly sat down at the square table. She did not go to the dressing table. Yu took a comb and combed her hair like a married woman's. However, she still looked like a little girl. Her face was young and tender. Yu said, Children always look like this when they comb adults' hair. Gu Jiao. You speak as if you are older than me. Xiaoheng and Gu Jiao went to Princess Xinyang's place to serve tea. Marquis Xianping was also there. When the two of them saw Xiaoheng walk in with a little fairy, they were both stunned. Marquis Xianping's first reaction was that the bride had been changed. He almost kicked his son out. He had only been married for 2 days, and he had already brought another woman to his parents. Who was he trying to anger? Xiaoheng said, Father, Mother, Jiao Jiao and I are here to pay our respects. Marquis Xianping. Gu Jiao whispered to Xiaoheng. Why are father and mother looking at me like that? Is there something on my face? Xiaoheng whispered back. There is nothing on your face. Huh. Gu Jiao did not understand. The husband and wife looked at their son, and had a tacit understanding not to expose him. Gu Jiao went to hug Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi touched Gu Jiao's face and looked left and right. Wah. That's it? Gu Jiao offered tea to her parents-in-law, and Princess Xinyang gave Gu Jiao a huge red packet. Marquis Xianping was also generous for once. He was generous, But it was definitely not Qin Fengwan who plundered him. Most of the servants in the residence had never seen Gu Jiao's true appearance, but that did not stop them from hearing about it from others. A purchasing manservant said, "I heard that our young madam's appearance is extremely ugly. She's not worthy of our young marquis." There were a few craftsmen surrounding him. One of them said, "It can't be? Who did you hear that from?" The manservant said, "I heard it from someone from Marquis Ding An's residence. It was their second Mrs. Maid who personally told my sister-in-law." The craftsman said, "How does your sister-in-law know someone from Marquis Ding An's residence?" The manservant said, "She doesn't know them. She just happened to meet them at the jewelry store." That maid said, "What's so great about her? She's so ugly. If she marries over, she'll be disliked by the young marquis." The craftsman said, "Then why does the young marquis want to marry her?" The manservant sighed. The young marquis is indebted to her. Moreover, her luck is good. She's the daughter of a noble family, and is well matched. The young marquis can only accept his bad luck." Hey. The craftsman tugged at his sleeve. "What?" he asked. The craftsman pointed not far away. "The appearance you said was ugly. Is it like that?" Everyone looked in the direction he was pointing at and gasped in shock. In the midst of the flowers, the young marquis in a crescent-white brocade robe, and a woman in a green dress walked over hand in hand. A gentle breeze blew up her light muslin skirt. If she didn't walk out of the mural, she must have fallen from the ninth heaven palace. A sentence floated in everyone's mind. "This is ugly? Are you ****king blind?" After serving tea to her parents-in-law, the two entered the palace to greet her grandaunt and the empress. Empress Dowager Zhuang fell this morning. After receiving the news, everyone rushed over. The empress, the old chancellor, and the whole family in Bishui Alley, except for little Jing Kong. He was taken to the capital for a 3-day tour by Shangguanqing. Empress Dowager Zhuang was fine, but eunuch Qin was crushed and limped. Empress Dowager Zhuang gave him a few days off. She didn't want the young couple to worry, so she didn't send the news to the princess's residence. Who knew that the young couple would come today? "Newlyweds, are you sure you don't want to spend a few more days in the residence?" After the empress left, Gu Xiaobao was taken to the back by the palace maid to play with eunuch Qin's little tortoise. The rest of the people sat under the trees in the garden. Gu Jiao used to be a frequent visitor to Renshou Palace. All the old people here had seen her before, but no one recognized her today. If she wasn't held by Xiaoheng, they wouldn't have dared to let her in. Empress Dowager Zhuang, who was lying on a rattan chair and secretly eating preserved fruits, saw a certain little one who had transformed into a fairy. She raised her eyebrows and said meaningfully, "Oh, you consummated your marriage?" Her little great-granddaughter could finally be put on the agenda. She wanted the chubby type, one who was cuter than Xiao Yi. Yao Shi made an N sound and nodded in a daze. "I think so." The old chancellor stroked his beard. He was very shocked and happy. "That's great, I can hold my little grand disciple now." Gu Yan sighed regretfully. "My brother-in-law got off too easy." Gu Xiaoshan scratched her head with a confused expression. "Am I the only one who doesn't understand what you're saying? Also, that person, is she really my older sister? I don't dare to recognize her." Gu Jiao had announced long ago that she and Xiaoheng had consummated their marriage. Of course, she could not slap her own face at this time. Even if nobody believed her at that time, she did not know. She had always thought that she had been wearing her little disguise properly. She puffed out her small chest and said with a stern expression, "I already told you. Ahing and I have already been a true married couple for a long time. We have already consummated our marriage in the countryside." Guyan liar. Yao Shi. Impossible. Empress Dowager Zhuang. You haven't. Gu Jiao's small body stood perfectly straight. Her eyes were resolute, and her aura was incomparably strong and confident. How could I not? Could it be that it's written on my face that I have only just consummated my marriage? Everyone nodded in unison. That's right. Gu Jiao. Digression. This month is almost over. Don't waste your monthly votes. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that cannot be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/10483427 HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion's mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 928. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are read for free. Novels with content that cannot be found online are all available here. Something was wrong. Everyone's reaction was not right. Gu Jiao asked Xiaoheng in a small voice. Did you spill the beans? Xiaoheng coughed softly and said in a low voice, no. He could not take the blame for this. Then what is going on? Gu Jiao muttered in confusion. No matter how smart she was, she would not have guessed that the birthmark on her face was actually a chastity mark. After all, who put the mark there? And after all, who put such a large mark? Xiaoheng could not bear to see her continue to be kept in the dark. He planned to tell her the truth about the chastity mark. Who knew that just as he was about to speak, Gu Xiaobao was carried over by a palace maid. Gu Xiaobao was sweating from the sun, and the palace maid carried him over to change his clothes. He immediately saw the fairy-like Gu Jiao. Children always had no resistance to beautiful things and would be uncontrollably attracted to them. He twisted his small body and got down from the palace maid's embrace. He was a lazy baby and could not walk more than 5 steps a day. It was clear how attracted he was to someone who could get off the bed voluntarily. He came to Gu Jiao's back and walked around Gu Jiao. He raised his small head to take a look. Then he exclaimed in surprise, "Oh, Xiaobao." Gu Jiao's lips curved. She bent down and reached out to lift the little guy up. Gu Xiaobao widened his black gem-like eyes and blinked as he looked at Gu Jiao. He looked at the left side of her face, and then looked at the right side of her face. He was certain that the person in front of him was his older sister, but it seemed like something had disappeared from her face. He turned his head to look at Madame Yao and his great-aunt. He waved his small hand and said seriously, "Nothing." "Xiaobao, what do you mean nothing?" Gu Jiao asked him. Gu Xiaobao looked at her again, and pointed at her face. He waved his small hand and said, "Nothing, Fei Fei." "What Fei Fei?" Gu Jiao still did not connect the dots to her birthmark, but Gu Xiaobao's reaction made it obvious that there was something wrong with her face. She passed Gu Xiaobao to Xiaoheng and turned to enter her room in Rinshou Palace. Everyone exchanged glances. Gu Yan counted, 3, 2, 1. Just as he finished counting, an earth-shattering scream came from the room. Wah-bang! It was much louder than Xiao Yi's, and the roof was almost blown off. The birds on the trees fluttered their wings and fled in all directions. The fallen leaves scattered all over everyone. Xiaoheng removed the leaf from Gu Xiaobao's mouth and raised his eyebrows. "Your reaction is much better than mine." When Xiaoheng led Gu Xiaobao into the house, Gu Jiao had already stopped. She sat quietly in front of the dinted bronze mirror. Actually, it was just a birthmark, but for some reason, the difference between having it and not having it was so great that even Gu Jiao herself did not recognize it. When she first saw an unfamiliar face in the bronze mirror, it completely overturned her understanding. She thought that she had seen a ghost and punched down. After punching, she realized that the person was herself. She slowly turned around and looked blankly at Xiaoheng. "Husband, they say that a woman who has been nourished by love is the most beautiful, but I'm thinking, isn't this nourishment a little too much?" Xiaoheng chuckled softly. He bent over slightly and covered Gu Xiaobao's small ears with both hands. He could not help but say, "It's the chastity mark." Gu Jiao's almond eyes widened. "It's chastity mark?" Xiaoheng laughed helplessly. "Mother knows more about this matter." Gu Jiao quickly went to ask Yao Shi. Thanks to her, Gu Xiaoshan also heard the whole story. Gu Jiao's small face darkened. "So it's the abbot. What's going on? Do all the monks in your temple drink wine?" After drinking, they even gave people the chastity mark. Their hands trembled and they lit up such a big pile. Gu Jiao said, I'll settle the score with him when we get back. But how did Yin know? Gu Xiaoshan asked. That day, when Yao Shi confessed the situation to Xiao Heng, Gu Xiaoshan and Gu Yan were not present. The ones present were Grandaunt, the old chancellor, Gu Chongqing and Gu Chengfeng. I guessed. Gu Yan said. He did not like to study, but it did not mean that he was not smart. On the contrary, he was very observant and meticulous. Nothing in the family could be hidden from him. Gu Jiao pursed her lips. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Thinking of how she had shamelessly said that she had consummated her marriage with the chastity mark in front of them. It really was a black history that could not be erased. Yao Shi held her daughter's hand and said with unconcealable relief, Mother's Jiao Jiao has finally become beautiful. In fact, no matter what Gu Jiao looked like, it was the best appearance in her eyes. But if one could have a good appearance, who would not want it? She had once been angry with the abbot, but she later thought about it. In the countryside, where there was no one to protect her daughter, an ugly appearance was not a bad thing. Otherwise, with this face, who knew how many disasters it would attract? Grandaunt? Gu Jiao cleverly looked at Empress Dowager Zhuang. Do I look good? Was she showing off just like that? Empress Dowager Zhuang snorted. More arrogant than a little monk. Naturally, she looked good. Although she had guessed that she would no longer be ugly after removing the chastity mark, she did not expect her to be this beautiful. Her beauty had been completely sealed by the chastity mark. She was still young and her facial features had not fully developed. When she grew older, she would become more and more beautiful. Perhaps one day, she would be extremely beautiful. She was already old, and did not know if she could stay with her for that long. Gu Jiao and Xiao Heng went to pay respects to the emperor and empress. As expected, the emperor and empress Xiao were both shocked. They asked Gu Jiao what had happened to her face. Gu Jiao cared about her face, so of course, she didn't say that it was her chastity mark. I used some medicine to remove it, Gu Jiao said. What kind of medicine? Is it so magical? Empress Xiao expressed that she also wanted it. Gu Jiao. No, you don't want it. Auntie, how is little Qi these days? Seeing that the topic was about to develop in an indescribable direction, Xiao Heng quickly changed the topic and asked about Qin Chuyu. Qin Chuyu and little Jing Kong studied in the prodigy class of the Imperial College and were very close friends. There was also the youngest son of the Minister of War, Su Tsongtsong. At the mention of her son, Empress Zhao's attention was successfully diverted. He's almost 10 years old, but he's still as noisy as when he first entered the Imperial College. The two came from the emperor and stayed at Renshou Palace for a whole day. When it was almost dark, they said goodbye to their grandaunt. Gu Xiaobao stayed in Gu Jiao's arms and did not want to get down. Come back with me, okay? Gu Jiao teased him. Okay, he agreed. Yao Shi. You don't want your mother anymore? Gu Jiao looked at him with a smile. You just called me sister. Gu Xiaobao. I didn't. Gu Jiao. You did. You did. Gu Xiaobao. I didn't. Gu Jiao. You didn't call me what? Gu Xiaobao, sister. Gu Jiao. Gu Xiaobao, who was tricked. Gu Jiao laughed and carried the adorable Gu Xiaobao into the carriage. Halfway through the journey, Gu Xiaobao fell asleep in her arms. Yao Shi carried Gu Xiaobao over and said to the two, It's getting late. You should go back quickly. The two bid farewell to Yao Shi, Gu Yan, and Gu Xiaoshan and took another carriage back to the princess's residence. The two planned to pay respects to the princess and the marquis first. When they entered the courtyard, they were told that Marquis Xianping and Princess Xinyang had taken Xiao Yi to see the lanterns. Gu Jiao said, Oh, the second spring is here. Is that how you use it? Xiao Heng looked at her in amusement. This look made him unable to look away again. She was like a little peach that had just ripened. Her entire body was filled with an alluring scent. Gu Jiao sensed his burning gaze and asked strangely, Why are you looking at me like that? Are you still tired? He asked softly. Gu Jiao did not realize that he was asking if she was still tired from entering the palace. She shook her head and said, I'm not tired. 2 hours later, The maids in Lanting courtyard all left the courtyard with red faces. They did not need to be on duty tonight. Marquis Chongping's residence. Gu Jinyu had just finished bathing and was wearing a cold, tight-fitting red nightgown as she sat on her wedding bed. "Chun Lu, do I look good like this?" she asked. "You do," Chun Lu said sincerely. It was not flattery. Her young miss was really becoming more and more beautiful as she grew. Her body had also matured. Her figure was graceful and her skin was smooth. How could the word beautiful be enough? "Go to the study to see Third Master," Gu Jinyu said. "Yes." Chun Lu quickly left. About half an hour later, Chun Lu returned sheepishly. "Is Third Master still not coming over?" Gu Jinyu asked expressionlessly. Chun Lu said awkwardly. "Third Master is coughing badly. He said he's afraid that his illness will affect young Mississippi. He wants young Miss to sleep first. He'll rest in the study tonight." Illness, it's illness again. Gu Jinyu clenched the handkerchief in her hand. She had married into the Marquis of Chongping's mansion on her wedding night. It was fine if the groom did not come to pick her up, but he did not come to their wedding night either. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that cannot be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896428226/1048145565. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 929. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that cannot be found online are all available here. 3 days after she married, he was sick for 3 days. Until now she was still a virgin. Gu Jinyu calmed her emotions and instructed Chun Lu. "Go and tell Third Master that I am in good health, and am not afraid of getting sick. Invite him to my room to rest." For a woman to say such words, it could be said that she was throwing away all her pride and face. If he still did not come, she had grown up in a house. No one knew better than her how difficult life could be for an unfavored woman. She could not follow in the footsteps of those women. Yes. Chun Lu braced herself and went to the study again. However, the results were the same. Third young Master Quan still insisted on resting in the study. Chun Lu said, "But Third Master said that he will rest well tonight and accompany Miss home tomorrow morning." Hearing this, Gu Jinyu's expression softened. "Third Master is really sick. He does not want to pass his illness on to me. He dotes on me." Chun Lu hurriedly nodded. "That's right. Third Master dotes on Miss. Otherwise, why would he cut his finger and let someone take the bleeding to the Marchioness?" Gu Jinyu sighed. "You are right. Third Master is considerate. I should not let my imagination run wild." Chun Lu smiled. "That's right. This servant will wait on you to rest?" Gu Jinyu did not object. Chun Lu let down the bun on her head. Gu Jinyu asked, "What do you think is going on with my sister? Marrying the same person twice. Only she could think of that." Chun Lu snorted and said, "In my opinion, the young Marquis has long been tired of her. Anyone who has looked at the same face for 4 years will be tired of it. Moreover, she is so ugly. The young Marquis had no choice but to marry her. She is the benefactor of the Empress Dowager and His Majesty. She also used her good medical skills to treat Yin Kingdom's dukin. Other than this, she has no other skills. In my opinion, young Marquis only marrying her as a decoration. As time passes, she'll suffer." Gu Jinyu lowered his eyes and straightened the corner of his clothes. "She and the young Duke have been married for 4 years and still have no children. Tell me, why is that?" Chun Lu combed her hair with a fine-tooth comb and said disdainfully, "Of course it's because she can't give birth. It turned out to be a hen that couldn't lay eggs. Young Miss, don't worry. Her days in the Marquis's estate won't be easy. Gu Jinyu sighed faintly. She's my elder sister after all. I still hope for the best for her. The next day, Gu Jiao woke up late again. While she sat in front of the dressing table and was combed by Yuya, Xiao Heng had already been busy for more than 2 hours. He had prepared all the gifts for the return trip. In addition, Princess Xinyang and Marquis Xianping had also paid their respects. His parents teased him, saying that Yi was going to have a nephew soon. Xiao Heng smiled but didn't say anything. He didn't tell his parents that they had used protection, except for the first time, which wasn't a good experience. But they probably wouldn't fall for it that time. The probability was too small. Breakfast was red bean and barley porridge, carrot and mutton buns, scallion rolls, crab cakes, and some exquisite and delicious side dishes. The two had good appetites and ate a little of everything. Gu Jiao still went to sit with Princess Xinyang. Marquis Xianping was also there. Marquis Xianping usually didn't come over in the morning. Ever since he came once on the day of the tea ceremony, Xiao Yi knew that her beautiful father could also come in the morning. Thus, she started looking for her father every day when she opened her eyes. Are you used to living here? Princess Xinyang asked Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao said, I'm used to it. It's all very good. Lanting Courtyard was decorated according to Gu Jiao's preferences. Some details that Gu Jiao herself didn't notice were noticed by Princess Xinyang in Jade Water Alley. Princess Xinyang was the same as her grandaunt. She never said anything and hid her love in the details. In truth, mother doesn't have to live here the entire time. Gu Jiao was referring to the Princess Manor. Princess Xinyang understood her meaning and said, It's nothing. Previously, I moved out of here because Aheng died. When I came to the Princess Manor, I would think of Aheng. Now that Aheng has safely returned and Qing, has also returned, there's nothing but. Being too close to a certain person had no other shortcomings. She silently glanced at Marquis Xianping. Forget it, this person didn't seem to be asking for a beating recently. Marquis Xianping was currently holding his daughter in the corridor to enjoy the cool air. He inadvertently turned his head and met Princess Xinyang's gaze. He raised an eyebrow. Qin Fengwan, you're peeking at this marquis again. Princess Xinyang clenched her fists and took back her earlier words. This person was truly asking for a beating. Princess Xinyang didn't want to see him again and coldly said, Don't you need to go to court? Marquis Xianping smiled. This marquis is on vacation. Princess Xinyang chuckled. What vacation? Aheng is getting married, not you. Marquis Xianping looked at the daughter in his arms and shamelessly said, Maternity leave. Princess Xinyang. Gu Jiao and Xiao Heng came out of the Princess Manor and sat in a carriage headed to the Duke's Manor. Today was also the day Gu Jinyu would return home. She wasn't as willful as Gu Jiao, who could get up whenever she wanted. Before the sun rose, she went to her mother-in-law's place to set the rules. After serving her mother-in-law breakfast, she returned to her own courtyard to check the gifts for her return home. After everything was tidied up, third young master Quan finally got up. At this time, they had already paid respects to old Madame Gu and Marquis Gu, and were preparing to return home. The carriage had barely taken 2 steps when Gu Jinyu heard the sound of horses galloping in their direction. Speaking of which, it was strange. She wasn't familiar with Gu Jiao, but every time it was her horse, she could always tell. It was the Black Wind Cavalry that had fought on the battlefield. They carried a fierce murderous aura. Even though they were far away, the horses of Marquis Chongping's manor were still a little frightened. Gu Jinyu lifted the curtain to take a look, and happened to see a group of carriages stop in front of the Duke's manor. Xiao Heng, who was dressed in a white brocade robe, led Gu Jiao, who was dressed in a green robe, out of the carriage. Gu Jinyu snorted sarcastically. That girl knew martial arts. Did she still need someone to help her? They were so careful. Did they treat that girl like a treasure? Stop the carriage, Gu Jinyu said. Third young master Quan, who was resting with his eyes closed, immediately opened his eyes and asked in confusion, What's wrong? Gu Jinyu smiled gently and said, I saw my sister and brother-in-law. I want to go and greet them. Third young master Quan asked, Young Marquis? Marquis Chongping's manor was in the eastern region, and had some connections with the Xiao family. This time, because the wedding was coincidentally on the same day, they couldn't attend each other's wedding. However, he heard from his family that they still sent congratulatory gifts. Third young Master Quan said, "All right." The two of them got off the carriage. Third young Master Quan got off first and left immediately, completely ignoring Gu Jinyu. There was no harm if there was no comparison. This was how they got off the carriage when they came to the Marquis's manor. Gu Jinyu didn't feel that anything was wrong. However, when she saw how Xiao Heng treated Gu Jiao, she immediately felt unbalanced. She gritted her teeth and glanced at Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao was wearing a veil today, covering most of her face. Only her bright forehead and exquisite eyes were exposed. Sister, brother-in-law, what a coincidence. She took Third young Master Quan's hand and walked towards them. Third young Master Quan frowned and pulled his hand back. Gu Jinyu felt awkward, but she didn't show it on her face. She continued to smile and said, "Sister, are you coming home today? Why are you so late? Don't tell me you slept until late in the morning? Do you still think you're an unmarried girl?" Third young Master Quan greeted Xiao Heng with an eager gaze. "Young Marquis." Xiao Heng nodded slightly. The two families weren't close, but they weren't hostile either. It was just that he was impatient with Gu Jinyu's words. Gu Jiao asked in return, "Do I have to get up earlier than the rooster when I'm married?" Gu Jinyu choked. Gu Jiao asked Xiao Heng in a small voice, "But isn't it not good for me to get up so late?" Xiao Heng stroked her head dotingly and said, "How could it be? My mother doesn't need you to set rules. She told me not to wake you up, and let you sleep a little longer." There were two messages in his words. First, Princess Xinyang doted on Gu Jiao. Second, Xiao Heng woke up earlier than Gu Jiao. She didn't need to serve her mother-in-law and husband. Gu Jinyu couldn't believe this was true. Even if Lady Yao was so doted on by Marquis Gu, she still had to give old Madame Gu face in the manor. Xiao Heng said calmly to Third young Master Quan, "If there's nothing else, we'll go in first. Young Master Quan will meet again." Third young Master Quan's status wasn't as high as Xiao Heng's. He hurriedly cupped his hands and bowed. "Brother-in-law, take care. Elder sister, take care." Gu Jiao couldn't be bothered to argue with Gu Jinyu. She turned and walked up the stairs with Xiao Heng. "Be careful." Xiao Heng held her hand and reminded her of the box on the stairs. For years, shouldn't they have given up on her long ago? Why did they seem even more inseparable than when she had met them before? Gu Jinyu's heart was filled with jealousy. Why did all the good things in the world happen to Gu Jiao? In what way was she inferior to her? "Elder sister." She called out to Gu Jiao. "Is there something else?" Gu Jiao asked. Gu Jinyu said arrogantly, "No, I just wanted to say that elder sister's veil is very beautiful. Elder sister originally didn't wear a veil, but I didn't expect that in order to see me twice, she would wear a veil. Actually, elder sister, you don't have to be like this. Why do you have to feel ashamed in front of me?" Gu Jiao said, "I feel ashamed of my inferiority." Third young Master Quan had also heard that the new wife of the young Marquis was an ugly woman. One had to know that young Marquis Xiao was the #1 handsome youth in the entire capital. To have an ugly wife was really a pity. At this time, many commoners had gathered around to watch the show. Even the passing carriages had stopped. They all wanted to know what this ugly wife of the young Marquis looked like. Was she ugly to the point that both man and God would be enraged? Digression. Little tyrant Jiao. I heard that Daddy and Mommy don't want me to come out, so you must use the monthly votes to force me out. Su Heng, go to the side. Oh, the latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel was also updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels were read for free. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1048140002. HTML Genius remembered this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com Chapter 930. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found online here. A person's rationality would not collapse overnight. To be honest, Gu Jinyu's actions today were not wise. Even if she made Gu Jiao make a fool of herself in front of everyone, it would not benefit her in any way. It was an action that harmed others without benefiting oneself. But after Gu Jiao returned, Gu Jinyu had suffered too many blows from Gu Jiao. Her rationality had been eaten away until there was not much left. She did not care what she could get. As long as she could make Gu Jiao the laughingstock of the capital, she would accept it even if she hurt herself and the enemy by 1,000. It was not the first time Gu Jiao's appearance had become so ugly. But in the past, she had only been a mediocre little female doctor. No one had any requirements for her appearance. Now that she had climbed up the social ladder and married the young Duke of Xiaodu, there would naturally be people who would feel that her appearance did not match. This marriage was like a fresh flower being stuck in cow dung. And men all cared about face. His wife had embarrassed him so much in front of everyone. The young Duke would probably have a knot in his heart and would not dare to go out with her in the future, right? Gu Jinyu thought with schadenfreude. She looked at Gu Jiao and Xiao Heng with a mocking gaze. She felt that Gu Jiao must be furious, but the truth was the opposite. Gu Jiao's expression was very calm. "Elder sister, are you not angry?" she asked. Gu Jiao glanced at her and said, "I'm not angry. I just feel that you are very pitiful. There is so much light in the world, but you only see darkness." Gu Jinyu's eyes narrowed. "Let's go," Gu Jiao said to Xiao Heng. Gu Jiao was actually a young girl who loved to be beautiful, but she would not have strange thoughts because she loved to be beautiful. She didn't feel inferior because of her ugly appearance, nor did she feel proud because of her beauty. She didn't care what others thought of her, and she didn't want to tear off her veil just because of a few words of provocation. Xiao Heng didn't care what other people thought of him. They might laugh at him for marrying an ugly wife, but he didn't want Gu Jiao to be wronged, not even a little bit. "Wait a moment," he said to Gu Jiao. After that, he looked at Gu Jinyu and said in a low voice, "You said that my wife feels inferior in front of you. Then let me ask you, when my wife was saving lives and helping the injured, what did you do? What did you do when my wife invented the bellows? My wife fought on the battlefield, guarded the borders, cured the plague, and defended the country and its people. Where are you, Gu Jinyu?" His gaze swept across the crowd of onlookers who didn't mind the commotion. "My wife has made outstanding military achievements in ancient Moon City, and was personally conferred the title of Protector Infanta by His Majesty. Which one of you didn't obtain stability in this world with the blood of my wife and the soldiers of the 3 armies? What right do you have to criticize her appearance? It's Xiao Heng's good fortune that my wife is willing to marry me. I've been waiting for this marriage for 4 years. I begged the Empress Dowager and Uncle Emperor to finally set the wedding date. My wife is the most beautiful woman in the world. There's no need to prove it to anyone. If we're talking about feeling inferior, it's all of you who should feel inferior in front of her." His words made everyone blush with shame. As a woman, she had done something that even men couldn't do, but they were criticizing her appearance. Gu Jinyu's heart was in turmoil. She had originally planned to embarrass Gu Jiao, but she didn't expect that the young duke would confess to Gu Jiao in public instead. This cleared up all the unfavorable rumors about Gu Jiao in the wedding. He was the one who begged for this marriage. It was his good fortune. It was him. He was the one who wanted to marry her. He waited for 4 years just to marry her with his real identity. Why? Why was Gu Jiao able to meet such a good man? Xiao Heng sighed and said, "Wife appearance isn't important anyway. If they want to see it, let them see it." Everyone. What happened to not proving it? Gu Jiao wasn't someone who liked to wear a veil. Last time, she wore it at Yao Shi's request. This time it was to give Dukin a surprise. Yuya came down from the carriage. She coldly looked at Gu Jinyu and came to Gu Jiao's side. She harumphed and said, "Some people want to seek their own humiliation. Young miss, help her out." Chun Lu rolled her eyes. "Ha, we don't know who's the one seeking humiliation. No matter how much you flatter yourself, you're still ugly. Gu Jiao's veil was blown open by the wind. Chun Lu looked at that indescribably peerless face, and her throat couldn't make a sound. How could it be like this? She had clearly seen the eldest young Mrs. face in the jewelry store last time. She didn't look like this. Where was that eye-catching red birthmark? Why did it disappear without a trace? Gu Jinyu's shock was no less than Gu Jiao's. Chun Lu had only seen Gu Jiao once, but Gu Jinyu had seen her up close countless times. She had even drawn Gu Jiao's portrait with her own hands. No. Impossible. Impossible. She looked in disbelief at that flawless face. She could not accept Gu Jiao's transformation from an ugly girl to a heavenly beauty. She had already lost to Gu Jiao in everything. The only thing she was proud of was her own appearance. But now, even her appearance had been ruthlessly beaten. Saying that she was better than her was already praising her. Before Gu Jiao took off her veil, her face could still be seen. After the veil was gone, she instantly lost all color. All the light in the world seemed to gather on Gu Jiao's face. Gu Jinyu had completely withered. No. No. It's not like this. You're not my older sister. You're not. You're not. Enough. Don't talk so much. Third young master Quan could not take it anymore. The people around were pointing and gossiping. He had married such an ignorant woman. He would not have the face to go out in the future. He gritted his teeth and glared at Gu Jinyu. He cupped his hands and said to Xiaoheng, "Brother-in-law." Xiaoheng said indifferently, "Don't call me brother-in-law. We're not close." After saying that, he held Gu Jiao's hand and walked into the duke's public house. The rest of the people were still immersed in Gu Jiao's stunning appearance, and did not regain their senses for a long time. Which damnable rumor spread that the young duke had married an ugly wife? Was it purposely ruining the young duke and his wife's reputation? If he had really seen her, then he was blind. If he had not seen her and still spread this rumor, then he was bad. Stupid and bad. It's her. It was her last time too. Yes, she came to the duke's public house to cause trouble. She was so eccentric. She was scolded badly by the duke's public house steward. The old duke ignored her. He even told her not to call him grandfather. How did the Marquis of Chongping's public house marry such a woman? The crowd began to point fingers at Gu Jinyu. Third young master Quan only felt that he had lost all his face, and wished he could find a hole to hide in. It's all because of you. After saying that, there was no longer a trace of pity for Gu Jinyu in his eyes. He looked at Gu Jinyu with disgust one last time, and left in the horse carriage. Chun Lu hurriedly chased after him. Young master! Young master! Young miss hasn't gotten into the horse carriage yet. On the day of her return, Gu Jinyu was thrown out on the streets by her new husband. The real despair was that the last trace of superiority she had in front of Gu Jiao had disappeared. She had completely lost. But actually she did not lose, because Gu Jiao had never competed with her. Steward Zheng had been in the backyard adjusting Duke N's new wheelchair. When he heard the commotion and went to the front to show off his skills, the battle had already ended. Aya! He wrung his hands. He felt that he had missed out on 100 million. Duke N was teaching Xian Yuanqi how to play chess in the backyard. Liaochen was being chased by Taoist Master Qing Feng, and could not bring his father around the capital. Xian Yuanqi could only accompany Duke N in the residence. You can stop here with this step. Duke N had just finished speaking when the chess piece in Xian Yuanqi's hand fell on the chessboard with a bang. Why are you? He looked at Xian Yuanqi and followed Xian Yuanqi's shocked gaze to the entrance of the garden. The young girl was dressed in a long green dress and had a slender figure. She held Xiaoheng's hand and walked over leisurely. They looked like a couple who had walked over from the Sanxing stone. They were so compatible, as if they were born for each other in this lifetime. Of course, Xian Yuanqi and Duke N's focus was not on this, but on Gu Jiao's face. There was no veil or birthmark. She had regained her beauty. Gu Jiao came to Duke N's side. She bent down and put her face in front of him. She smiled like a child who was playing tricks. Are you surprised? Are you surprised? Duke N raised his hand and touched her cheek. I'm surprised. I'm so surprised. Xian Yuanqi looked at the childish Gu Jiao, and a trace of emotion flashed across his eyes. Compared to her appearance, the change in her temperament surprised him more. Brother, if you were still alive, you would be very happy to see her like this, right? Dukan and Xian Yuanqi did not know about the chastity mark, but now that they knew, they did not know what to say. This mistake was too big. Xian Yuanqi secretly put forward the plan to beat up the abbot on the agenda. Xiaoheng took Dukan's place and continued to teach Xian Yuanqi how to play chess. The father and daughter went to the courtyard to open the gifts. Xiaoheng carefully selected each gift. In order to show how much he valued his son-in-law, Dukan wanted to see each gift one by one. After that, he asked someone to bring in a big box. What is this? Gu Jiao asked. Dukan sat in his wheelchair and smiled. He said, the state preceptor asked someone to send it over. He said it was the wedding gift that he promised you before. Gu Jiao immediately remembered. The weapons that Jin Kingdom offered as a tribute. Such a big box. Are they all for me? Dukan was amused by her impatience. There are 2 more boxes. Here it comes. Here it comes. Steward Zhang ordered the servants to bring in the other 2 boxes of weapons and open the lids. Gu Jiao began to choose carefully. Jin Kingdom had spent a lot of money this time. They offered all good things as a tribute. Suddenly, Gu Jiao's gaze fell on a long and narrow mahogany box. Miss wants to see this? Steward Zhang cleverly walked over and opened the mahogany box. He presented it to Gu Jiao with both hands. Inside was a long sword made of dark iron with peacock feathers that shone with cold light. When Gu Jiao saw it, a strange feeling arose from the bottom of her heart. She held the sword in her hand and looked at it carefully. When she pulled the sword out of the scabbard, the cold light reflected in her eyes. Suddenly, an image flashed in her mind. It's this? In the dream of the battle, she saw her own ending, dying under this sword. Digression, it's the last day at the end of the month. Don't waste the monthly votes. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels can be read for free. There are all the novels that can't be found online here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1047956003. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 931. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet here. Dukan looked at her and said, Jiao Jiao, what's wrong with you? Is there something wrong with this sword? Dukan loved Gu Jiao dearly, so he saw every little expression on her face. Gu Jiao didn't know how to explain for a moment. Dukan knew his precious daughter too well. She was amenable to persuasion but not coercion. He said with a worried face, Jiao Jiao, you must tell father anything. Don't hide it from me. Otherwise I will be worried. Godfather was also father. He called himself that on the day of his wedding, so Gu Jiao didn't think much of it. His tone was so soft that it was hard to resist. But where did this come from? Just as Gu Jiao was thinking about how to say it, Xiaoheng and Xian Yuanqi came over. As soon as the two entered the room, they noticed that the atmosphere was a bit strange. Father Jiao Jiao. Xiaoheng greeted and asked, Did something happen? Your expressions are strange. Dukan looked at Gu Jiao, as if waiting for her answer. Gu Jiao sighed helplessly. Okay, Steward Zheng, please take everyone away first. Okay. Steward Zheng called the servants in the room out. They sat around the square table. Gu Jiao sat on Dukan's left, Xian Yuanqi on her right, and Xiaoheng on the opposite. Speak, Dukan said. I had a dream. Gu Jiao told him about her dream of dying under this sword. It's just a dream. Jiao Jiao, don't take it seriously. Dukan comforted her. It wasn't clear if he was comforting Gu Jiao or himself. Xian Yuanqi's expression turned solemn. He remained silent. What else did you dream of? Xiaoheng asked. Gu Jiao thought for a moment, and decided to tell the truth. I dreamt that the Yan kingdom was at war with the Liang kingdom and the Jin kingdom. The Xianyuan army and many others died at the hands of Chu Feiping and Gong Sunyu. She was dead. Jin Kong was dead. Everyone was dead. Xiaoheng finally understood why she wanted to personally lead the Black Wind Cavalry into battle. She wanted to change everyone's fate. In fact, she had done it. She had killed Gong Sunyu with her own hands. She had spun the wheel of fate. It was his Jiao. How lucky was he to marry such a good Jiao? He gripped her hand and said softly, Gong Sunyu is dead, and Chu Feiping has become a cripple. Everything that happened in the dream will never happen again. Okay. Gu Jiao nodded. Xian Yuanqi suddenly asked, Is that swordsman dead? Dukan looked at him. This is just a dream. Why did you really believe it? From his point of view, those dreams on the battlefield could be interpreted as nervousness before the battle. Xiaoheng also looked at Xian Yuanqi in surprise. Judging from Xian Yuanqi's tone, it seemed that he also believed that Gu Jiao's dream had a special meaning. Xian Yuanqi, did he know something? Gu Jiao was focused on thinking about the sword. She did not spare any extra brainpower to think about Xian Yuanqi's reaction. She shook her head in a daze. I don't know who that swordsman is, so I can't be sure if he's dead or not. Many people had died in this battle. Perhaps that swordsman was already dead, or perhaps he was not. Moreover, the battle in Puqing happened 9 years earlier than in her dream. In other words, she would only meet that swordsman 9 years later. That swordsman might still be a child. Maybe after 9 years, he wouldn't be a swordsman anymore. He would not be like Gong Sunyu's 4 subordinates, who were already malignant tumors. You have to be careful. Xian Yuanqi did not want to be careless when it concerned Gu Jiao. He asked again, Is that swordsman from Jin State? Or from Liang State? Gu Jiao shook her head. I'm not sure either. She knew nothing about the swordsman. She was stabbed in the heart from behind. If it were not for the extra perspective in her dream, she would not even know what kind of mask the swordsman was wearing. Can you draw that mask? Xiaoheng asked. Let me try, Gu Jiao said. Xiaoheng went to get a brush and paper. Gu Jiao's brush was not very good at drawing, so she sketched with charcoal. After she finished, she was quite satisfied. Something like this. She put the drawing on the table. The 3 of them stared at the fanged mask in the drawing. They really could not imagine its origin. And this sword, Xian Yuanqi said. Write a letter and ask the state preceptor about the sword's origin. And Guogong nodded. Okay. Gu Jiao paused and said, About this sword, I suddenly remember someone. Maybe we don't need to ask the state preceptor. Just ask him. After the newlyweds left, and Guogong sat in his wheelchair and turned to look at Xian Yuanqi, who was deep in thought. He voiced his doubts. You seem to really believe in Jiao Jiao's nightmare. Xian Yuanqi said. She can see in her dreams. And Guogong was stunned. Xian Yuanqi said. She has been rewriting everyone's fate. Now it's someone's turn to rewrite hers. It would be best if that assassin died. If he was still alive, he would find him personally and kill him. It was June in the capital, and the weather was hot. A master and servant walked listlessly on the busy street. Peddlers pushing stalls passed by them from time to time, almost knocking into them. Be careful. How can you walk? The guard in gray dodged to the side and used his body to block his master. The peddler who was scolded by him saw the sword at his waist. He was angry, but he didn't dare to say anything. He rolled his eyes and left. Master, oh master, how long do we have to stay in Zhao country? That monk won't tell us anything. We can't beat him or persuade him. We can't. As the guard in gray spoke, he felt that there was no movement behind him. He turned around and was shocked. Master? Where did you go? Master Mingyu was put in a gunny sack. Gu Jiao dragged the small gunny sack into an alley. Here, the carriage of Marquis Xuanping's residence had been waiting for a long time. Gu Jiao threw him into the carriage. She clapped her hands and jumped in as well. She sat down beside Xiaoheng. After the battle, Gu Jiao didn't move her body. Her hands were itchy. She looked at the gunny sack on the ground and said seriously, I don't think he will confess obediently. We have to torture him. I'll confess. The person in the gunny sack said. Gu Jiao. I haven't said what I want to ask. Gu Jiao's raised foot froze in midair. She felt very wronged. Xiao Heng smiled gently and held her soft hand. His thumb gently rubbed her fingertips. He said softly, I'll compensate you when we get back. Gu Jiao said, I want the kind that is fermented by Jiangjiang. Xiao Heng laughed softly. His eyes sparkled. Okay. The person in the gunny sack. Hello? If you want to interrogate, then interrogate. Don't give me dog food. Gu Jiao released Master Mingyu from the gunny sack. Master Mingyu sat down on the stool beside Xiao Heng. He waved the fan in his hand and said, What do you want to ask? Ask. This master is in a good mood today. I won't argue with you. Gu Jiao looked at Xiao Heng. He's stubborn. Can I beat him up? Master Mingyu's body trembled. Why did this little girl always want to beat people up? Wait, little girl. What happened to your face? The light in the carriage was dim, but his eyesight was very good. He could clearly see that breathtakingly beautiful face. He almost couldn't shift his gaze away. Heavens, was this little girl poisoned? How did she become such a beauty in just a month? Xiao Heng said. Okay, you can beat him up now. Master Mingyu. I won't look. I won't look. He closed his eyes, filled with the desire to live. No. Gu Jiao said. No you. He was only halfway through his sentence when he felt something flying towards him. He instinctively raised his hand to grab it. It was a sword. The familiar touch made his heart tremble. He suddenly opened his eyes and looked down at the sword in his hand. In order to let him see it more clearly, Gu Jiao lit up the oil lamp on the small table. Gu Jiao saw his reaction. Gu Jiao had a rough idea of what was going on, but she still asked for confirmation. Is this the sword you're looking for? Yes, this is it. Master Mingyu did not deny or hide anything. He stroked the sword in his hand in disbelief. Because he was too nervous and excited, his arm and fingertips were trembling. It really is in your hands. Gu Jiao did not explain that she had only obtained it today. Where did this sword come from? Don't lie. I'm afraid you won't be able to leave the carriage alive. A cold light flashed in Master Mingyu's eyes. Killing intent burst out from his body. However, it only lasted for a moment before he groaned and clutched his chest. The killing intent also dissipated. Are you injured? Gu Jiao asked. No, it's not an injury. As for what it was, he did not want to say more. He turned to the two and said, I'll tell you where it came from. Can you return it to me? Not for free. Name a price. He said return it. Xiao Heng said indifferently, Tell us first. If we're satisfied, we'll consider whether to agree to your conditions. Gu Jiao nodded. That's right. That's it. A trace of conflict appeared in Master Mingyu's eyes. Logically speaking, he could not reveal his identity. However, in order to take back the sword, he could only betray his promise. He said resignedly, It's my master's sword. Xiao Heng asked, Who is your master? Digression, the ticket has been cleared. I won't vote again. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896428226/1047941129. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in a second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 932. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels can be read for free. Novels with content that cannot be found online can be found here. Sir Mingyu frowned. Clearly, he was conflicted about what to say next. It's fine if you don't want to say it, but I can't give you the sword. Xiao Heng stretched out his hand and acted like he wanted to take the sword back. Sir Mingyu hurriedly hugged the long sword. I'll say it. Gu Jiao said fiercely. Say it, or I'll beat you up. Sir Mingyu suppressed his anger. He was getting weaker and weaker, and was no match for this girl. He had no choice but to lower his head. Have you heard of the sword hut? He asked. The couple nodded in unison. When Gu Jiao went to the eastern border of the Yan kingdom to attack the Liang kingdom and the Jin kingdom, she repeatedly fought with the people of the sword hut. After the battle, the Jin kingdom surrendered, but there was no news about the people of the sword hut. It was unknown whether this sword hut was the same sword hut. Sir Mingyu said, My master is the master of the sword hut, the leader of the sword hut. This sword is called Xianyu and is the leader's keepsake. I came to the Zhao kingdom because there was a traitor in the sword hut who escaped with the sword. I came to find its whereabouts. But who would have thought that the moment I found it, it was snatched away by that stupid monk? Gu Jiao said, Did you say Liaochen? Liaochen did not snatch your sword. He picked it up. Sir Mingyu said, I don't believe it. Gu Jiao laughed. It's up to you to believe it or not. Sir Mingyu wanted to say something but stopped. There was no point in investigating the monk's actions. The important thing was that Xianyu had been found. He could finally return to the sword hut. Gu Jiao said again, How many sword huts are there in the world? Sir Mingyu said without hesitation, Only one. He thought of something and said, But we can't rule out the possibility of some small sects using the name of the sword hut to swindle people. Gu Jiao touched her delicate chin. Is the sword hut that colluded with the Jin kingdom's royal family? Young Master Mingyu was slightly stunned. The royal family of Jin nation? You're talking about that? I guess so. That's a branch of the sword hut. Only 2 of them are from the inner sect. Gu Jiao asked, Sky Splitter and Enhun? You know them? Young Master Mingyu was surprised. Gu Jiao thought to herself, Not only do I know, but I'm also very familiar with it. I've fought with Enhun. I've fought with Heaven Splitter. It was no wonder that Long Yi and Enhun were so powerful, but the masters of the sword hut at the border were so weak. It turned out that only the 2 of them were inner sect disciples. Mr. Mingyu snorted and said, The Jiang who does not know that the sword hut is divided into the inner and outer sections. You are lucky to have met me. Otherwise, you would never have known that the sword hut that interacts with the Jin nation is just a branch. Gu Jiao was puzzled. Why are you colluding with the royal family of Jin nation? Young Master Mingyu's face darkened. We're just friends. What do you mean by collusion? I'm not sure about the details. I'm not in charge of it. However, the 2 people you mentioned just now, according to seniority, perhaps I should call them senior brothers. Who's older and who's younger? Gu Jiao asked. Young Master Mingyu said, Enhun is the eldest senior brother, Sky Splitter is the youngest. Now I'm the youngest. When they went to the branch, I was still young, so I didn't meet them. I only heard about them from my master. Gu Jiao nodded. Continue. Young Master Mingyu looked at her strangely. Are you asking about my sword or my senior brother? Gu Jiao said. I'm asking about both. Why did they go to the branch? Young Master Mingyu thought for a while. It seems to be to kill someone. Kill the second master of shadows, Xianyuan Qi. That year, Long Yi came to Zhao Nation with such a mission. However, for some unknown reason, Long Yi gave up his mission. Thus, Enhun replaced him and stayed in the branch. Together with the royal family of Jin Nation, they secretly carried out the annihilation of Xianyuan Qi and the Shadow Division. Long Yi. I miss him a little. Gu Jiao whispered. Xiao Heng held her hand and didn't say anything. He also missed Long Yi. He missed him very much. He didn't know if he had found the answer he wanted. Are you done asking? Can I take the sword now? Young Master Mingyu asked. I can't yet. Xiao Heng took the sword. He said angrily. You don't keep your word. Xiao Heng said neither too fast nor too slow. I only said that if your answer satisfied us, we might consider it. He gritted his teeth and said. Then, is there something you're not satisfied with? I didn't hide anything, Xiaoheng said without changing his expression. We're satisfied, so we're considering whether to give you the sword or not. Young Master Mingyu was made a fool of, so he was furious. Have you seen this before? Xiaoheng took out Gu Jiao's sketch paper. He turned his face. Humph. Why should I tell you? Xiaoheng said. It seems you don't want your master's sword back. Young Master Mingyu coldly glared at him and looked at the fanged mask on the sketch. He said, I've never seen it before. Xiaoheng looked at him seriously. Are you sure? He sighed. You're just a mask. If I've seen it, then I've seen it. If I haven't seen it, then I haven't seen it. Why should I lie to you? Xiaoheng looked into his eyes without blinking. Last question, where is the sword hut? After half an hour, the gray-robed guard found his master in the alley who was supporting himself against the wall and gasping for breath. He walked over in large strides and supported his master's arm. He worriedly said, Young master, are you all right? Why did you leave me here alone? It's nothing. Young Master Mingyu covered his chest. I met the young Marquis of Zhaodu and that girl from Jade Water Alley. The gray-robed guard was shocked. Those two? Did they bully you? Young Master Mingyu shook his head. No, they only asked me some questions. The origin of the Xianyu sword, my two senior brothers, and the location of the sword hut. The gray-robed guard frowned. Why did they suddenly ask about this? Then did you tell them everything? Young Master Mingyu looked in the direction where the carriage disappeared and said lightly, I told them a little. In the carriage, Gu Jiao played with the long sword in her hand and asked Xiaoheng, What do you think? Did that Mingyu lie? Xiaoheng said, He didn't lie, but he didn't tell the whole truth either. He hid something. Gu Jiao said, Oh. Xiaoheng said, It's not strange. Every sect has its own secrets. Gu Jiao pointed at the paper on the table. Then is the map of the sword hut he drew real or fake? Xiaoheng said seriously. It should be real. Also, he said that he had never seen that mask. It doesn't seem like he was lying. They still didn't know who the swordsman in Gu Jiao's dream who killed her was. Xiaoheng stroked her hair and said softly, Don't worry. If he is still alive, we will definitely find him. They were no longer alone and helpless. Behind them were the royal families of two countries, the Imperial Preceptor Hall, the manor of Marquis Xianping, and the powerful Black Wind Cavalry and the Shadow Troop. Gu Jiao shook her head. I'm not worried. Xiaoheng took her hand and smiled. That's right. It's not easy to get married. Don't worry about anything. Just wait to be the wife of the Imperial Preceptor. Gu Jiao blinked. Wife of the Imperial Preceptor? Xiaoheng smiled. I forgot to tell you. Grand Secretary Yuan proposed the Imperial Preceptor examination to my uncle last year. My uncle agreed. But for some reason, the examination was postponed for a year. It will be held next month. Gu Jiao was surprised. You don't plan to be the prince of the Yin Kingdom? Xiaoheng smiled. The identity of the prince was given by my parents. The position of Imperial Preceptor was obtained by me through the examination. Gu Jiao raised her eyebrows. You speak as if you have already passed the examination. What if you don't? Xiaoheng looked at her gently. I'll be punished by my wife. But if I pass the examination, you have to reward me. It didn't sound like a serious reward. Gu Jiao said seriously. Today's account hasn't been settled yet, but you are already thinking about the future. Xiaoheng held her soft hand and leaned close to her ear. He said in a low and magnetic voice, My wife means that we should go back early and settle today's account. Gu Jiao said, I didn't say that. Xiaoheng said, You did. Gu Jiao was speechless. The two returned to the princess residence. They first went to Princess Xinyang and paid their respects to her and Marquis Xianping. Then they played with Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi was getting more and more energetic. She lay in the cradle and kicked her legs happily. Princess Xinyang asked about their return, and whether they had gone to visit Lady Yao. We went, Xiaoheng said. They went to the Duke's residence in the morning and Jade Water Alley in the afternoon. They only went to catch Master Mingyu at dusk. Father, I have something to say to you, Xiaoheng said to Marquis Xianping. It has to do with the sword hut. During the war at the border, the person who had interacted with the Sword Hut the most was Marquis Xianping. In the end, the elders of the Sword Hut had all died at his hands. Come to the study. Marquis Xianping put his hands behind his back and strode outside. Princess Xinyang glared at him and muttered, "That's my study." The father and son went to the study next door. Eugene brought over a bowl of black medicine and looked meaningfully at Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao felt her hair stand on end. "What?" Princess Xinyang said. "Drink it." Gu Jiao smelled it. She was a doctor, so of course it was not difficult for her to recognize the medicine. "This is," Princess Xinyang admitted, "pregnancy medicine. Drink it while it's hot. When it cools, the medicine won't be effective enough." Gu Jiao was speechless. "Should I tell you that I've already used little Tao Tao?" Princess Xinyang glanced at her and asked, "Why aren't you drinking it? Are you afraid it's bitter?" "Fine, I'll drink it. There's no baby anyway." Gu Jiao raised her head and drank the pregnancy medicine in one go. Digression. I'm a bit stuck. Everyone, come and watch the second chapter in the afternoon. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896428226/1047734441. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion's mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 933. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that cannot be found online are all available here. You're saying that the people of the Sword Hut might kill Jiao Jiao? In the study, Marquis Xianping listened to his son's narration. It would be a lie to say that he was not surprised. However, he did not feel that his son was making things up. Xiao Heng said seriously, "Jiao Jiao's dreams have always been very accurate. Back then, you almost lost your life to the mudslide. It was thanks to her that you saw the storm and the mudslide in your dream." Marquis Xianping was a person who always had his head tied to his belt. Everything he had was obtained through his own martial arts. If it were anything else, he would definitely scoff. However, this matter concerned Gu Jiao, so he was very cautious. Those bastards from the Sword Hut are all dead. He was somewhat annoyed. If he had known that this would happen, he would have left a few alive. Xiao Heng said, "Those are all outer sect disciples. Their understanding of the inner sect is limited. They are not as valuable as Mingyu." Marquis Xianping said thoughtfully, "I'll capture that guy another day and interrogate him." Xiao Heng did not object. One had to be merciful. Sometimes, being merciful to one's enemy was being cruel to oneself. "Father, have you seen any ace from the Sword Hut wearing this mask?" Xiao Heng handed the sketch paper he carried with him to Marquis Xianping. Marquis Xianping took it and looked carefully. He shook his head. "No. Why would the people of the Sword Hut wear masks?" This question stunned Xiao Heng and Gu Jiao. Because this was an established fact, Gu Jiao and Xiao Heng did not question the irrationality of this phenomenon. However, Marquis Xianping was a bystander, and immediately sensed that something was wrong. Xiao Heng quickly came back to his senses and said, "I was almost led astray by you, and Han and Shirtian both wore masks. I'm guessing that only the inner sect disciples would wear masks when they come out to carry out missions." Marquis Xianping nodded. "This makes sense. I'll get to the bottom of this. You can focus on preparing for the upcoming exam." Xiao Heng looked at him in confusion. "Did I tell you that I'm going to take an exam?" Marquis Xianping snorted. "Do you think I won't ask if you don't tell me?" He was now a father who cared for his son, and would not be indifferent, or pretend to be indifferent, to his learning. Xiao Heng laughed. "Thank you, father," Marquis Xianping said with an unruly expression. Why are you thanking your own father? If you really want to thank me, give birth to a little nephew for ye to play with. Xiaoheng. There are two big things in life that cannot be avoided: urging marriage and urging children. Xiao Yi was about to sleep. The two of them bid farewell to Princess Xinyang and Marquis Xianping, and returned to their own courtyard. As soon as he entered the room, Xiaoheng asked, "My mother didn't say anything strange to you, did she?" "What strange words?" Gu Jiao asked. Xiaoheng said, "For example, urging you to give birth to a fat boy or something like that." "No," Gu Jiao said. Xiaoheng secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Unexpectedly, before he could finish his sigh of relief, he heard Gu Jiao say, "She just gave me a bowl of pregnancy medicine." Xiaoheng. As expected of his mother, she was even more ruthless than his father. Xiaoheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Tomorrow, I'll talk to my mother and tell her not to do these things in the future." Gu Jiao said, "It's fine. Actually, it's just some medicinal herbs that replenish blood and qi. There's no harm in drinking it." Xiaoheng thought for a moment. That's fine too. It was better than telling his mother that they didn't plan to have children for the time being. "Do you want a baby?" Gu Jiao asked him. The two of them had never discussed this topic in depth. It was Gu Jiao who took out the contraceptive measures after getting drunk, and the two of them seemed to have accepted it naturally. Xiaoheng smiled and said, "You're still young. It won't be too late to give birth when you're older." Gu Jiao lowered her eyes. "What if I don't want to give birth?" Xiaoheng's eyes flashed with a trace of astonishment. He didn't hesitate for too long. He stared at her and said, "Then don't give birth. In any case, there's still my older brother. At worst, I'll just let him carry on the family line." Gu Jiao took a step forward and pressed her forehead against his chest. "Rub my head." Xiaoheng smiled gently and gently rubbed her head. Gu Jiao felt his comfort. It was the intimacy that she hadn't been able to obtain from her parents when she was young. After a long time, she said in a low voice, "I'm a little monster. I'm afraid that if I give birth to a baby, it'll also be a little monster." This was the first time she had said that she was afraid in front of him. She had never been afraid of anyone or anything. War, bloodshed, plagues and death. She had never shown a trace of fear. Xiaoheng's heart clenched, and he hugged her tightly. "You're not a little monster. You're my Jiao Jiao." Gu Jiao didn't say anything. She just leaned quietly in his arms. She knew that Xiaoheng wasn't her parents in her previous life, and neither was she. They wouldn't treat their children like that. But there were some shadows in her subconscious that she couldn't control. She could bear all the pain in the world, but she didn't want her baby to be full of wounds. "It hurts," she said. "They don't want me. It really hurts." Duke's mansion. It was late at night, but Dukin didn't feel sleepy. He went to Xian Yuanqi's courtyard. Xian Yuanqi always went to bed early. As expected, the lights in his room were still on. Dukin pushed the wheelchair into the room. "Can't you walk?" Xian Yuanqi pushed the door open and pushed him in. Dukin smiled and said, "I can't walk too much." "What's the matter?" Xian Yuanqi stopped the wheelchair beside the square table and sat down opposite Dukin. Dukin said bluntly, "You seem to know Jiao Jiao very well." "We fought together," Xian Yuanqi said. Dukin remembered that Gu Jiao and Xian Yuanqi fought against Gong Sunyu and the Jin army in Ghost Mountain and Pu City. He nodded and said, "Is that so? But I feel that you know more about her than that." Xian Yuanqi didn't answer him. Instead, he asked seriously, "Why are you so quick with your words?" Dukin fell off the horse and was in a vegetative state for 3 years. It was much worse than Xian Yuanqi. Dukin smiled and said, "Because I'm smart." Xian Yuanqi's face darkened. He went to the door and said, "Goodbye." Liao Chen returned to Dukin's mansion in the middle of the night. He was chased for 3 days and finally got rid of that guy. He climbed over the wall and returned to the courtyard. After walking for 3 days, he didn't know if his father went out to look for him, or if he was worried sick. He immediately went to tell his father that he was safe. "Father really didn't sleep. It seems that he was very worried about me." Liao Chen knocked on the door. "Come in," Xian Yuanqi said. Liao Chen pushed the door open and entered. He saw his father sitting in front of the window, carefully wiping a wolf tooth pendant with a handkerchief. This pendant was his father's personal item. He had worn it for decades. It was said that it was a birthday gift from the First Lord of Shadows. He had treasured it until now. He smiled and said, "Father, I'm back. I'm sorry that I ran into some trouble these days and made you worry." Xian Yuanqi glanced at him and decisively put away his pendant, as if he was afraid that his own son would take it away. Liao Chen was speechless. "You don't have to be so guarded against me. I won't steal it." Xian Yuanqi snorted. "Who knows?" Liao Chen was speechless. Xian Yuanqi said lightly, "I'm not worried." Liao Chen was stunned for a moment before he realized that his father was answering his first question. He expressed his confusion. "I've been missing for 3 days. You're not worried?" Xian Yuanqi said calmly. "Qing said that you should go and chase after your wife. He told me not to look for you." Liao Chen was speechless. "Sheng Guanqing, come out. I promise I won't beat you to death." Xian Yuanqi's martial arts were so good that he woke up halfway after getting drunk. Seeing that his son was not there, he wanted to find his son. Sheng Guanqing had an idea and came up with this plan to fool Xian Yuanqi. In the name of congratulating Xian Yuanqi, he once again made Xian Yuanqi drunk. "Where's my daughter-in-law?" Xian Yuanqi asked expectantly. Liao Chen was speechless. On the 22nd of June, little Jing Kong and Sheng Guanqing finally returned to the princess mansion after a 3-day tour of the capital city. Little Jing Kong got off the carriage and ran quickly to the Lanting courtyard. Sheng Guanqing couldn't stop him, even if he wanted to. Looking at the little guy's small back, Sheng Guanqing, who had lost a layer of skin, sighed wearily. "I can only help you this much, brother." It had only been 3 days, and he had already broken down. He really didn't know how his brother had taken this little guy from Zhao State to Yen State. Also, a new gun was not enough. Stinky brother should at least give him 3 guns. "Young master." A servant saw Sheng Guanqing and hurried over to salute him. Sheng Guanqing said stiffly, "Come here and give me a hand. I can't move." The little monk had squeezed out all his energy. Little Jing Kong was mercilessly stopped by his brother-in-law as soon as he entered the Lanting courtyard. His bad brother-in-law held him and took him to the practice room. "I want to see Jiao Jiao," he said with a dark face. "Jiao Jiao is not awake yet." "I'll take you to see her later," Xiao Heng said. Little Jing Kong looked up at his bad brother-in-law. "Why is she not awake yet? Is Jiao Jiao sick?" It was no wonder that little Jing Kong asked this. Gu Jiao's work and rest were too regular. She was always the one who got up early in the family. She would only get up a little later when she was not feeling well. Xiao Heng said calmly, "She's not sick. Jiao Jiao slept late." "Why did Jiao Jiao sleep late?" Little Jing Kong asked. Of course, Xiao Heng could not tell him the real reason. He could only say, "Jiao Jiao is getting married. She's a newlywed and has a lot of things to do. For example, the luggage, dowry, and so on. She needs to organize them." She did bring a lot of things on the wedding day. Little Jing Kong nodded seriously. Then he looked at Xiao Heng disapprovingly. "Why didn't you organize them? Why did you let Jiao Jiao organize them? You're too lazy. You didn't put in any effort at all. Even Xiaobao is more diligent than you." Xiao Heng, who had been working hard all night, was speechless. Digression. Happy National Day. Please give me double monthly votes. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896428226/10477155. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 934. Please scan the QR code below to download the app for more exciting content. More novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online. The Lanting courtyard had prepared a separate practice room and backyard for little Jing Kong, so he could play to his heart's content. After putting him down, Xiao Heng went to the study to do his own things. Sheng Guanqing was carried into the study by 2 servants. His cheeks were thin, and he looked miserable. Xiao Heng was tidying up the desk and was shocked by his appearance. "What happened to you? Were you beaten?" Sheng Guanqing motioned for the servant to help him to the chair opposite the desk. The servant helped him to the southeast corner. He shook his head and said, "I want the seat over there." That seat was facing his younger brother, and he could show his miserable state without any blind spots. It had to be said that the 3 of them had excellent wisdom and talent when it came to showing themselves. After he sat down painfully, he said to the servants, "Okay, you can leave." The 2 servants left without saying a word. Xiao Heng flipped through the books in his hand and picked out the ones that needed to be dried. He glanced at him and said, "You are my father's son. No one in Jiaodu would dare to beat you, right? Let me guess, you want a gun again?" Sheng Guanqing gasped. What kind of monster was his stinky younger brother? Could he see through his thoughts at a glance? He opened his mouth. Xiao Heng didn't give him a chance. "Don't deny it. I saw through it." Sheng Guanqing's handsome face darkened. In the next second, he removed his disguise and casually placed his feet on the table. He crossed his hands behind his head and leaned his body against the back of the chair. He said casually, "Tell me, where did I expose myself?" Xiao Heng said with amusement, "You didn't expose yourself. I tricked you." Sheng Guanqing's body shook. "That girl tricked me, but you tricked me too. You two are really a match made in heaven." "I don't care." He turned his face and said angrily, "I'll lose half my life if I have to take care of the little monk for you. No matter what, you have to make me at least 10 new firearms." 2. Xiao Heng bargained. Sheng Guanqing withdrew his feet from the table and sat up straight. He stared at Xiao Heng and said, "Don't you always cut the price by half when bargaining?" Xiao Heng thought for a moment. "Then 1 round? If the 2 swords were half and half, it would be 1 sword." Sheng Guanqing narrowed his eyes dangerously. "I'll tell the princess's mother that you bullied me." Xiao Heng said calmly, "You've already cured the poison, yet you're still being bullied by a weak scholar like me. It seems that you don't practice the horse stance enough." The corner of Sheng Guanqing's mouth twitched. 3 no less. Xiao Heng deal. Sheng Guanqing asked, "Are you not going to struggle this time?" "If I had known earlier, I would have said 4 rounds. Sheng Guanqing returned to his courtyard after the daily "Can't Beat My Younger Brother" series ended. Little Jing Kong finished practicing, reading, and doing his homework. It was almost late in the morning when Gu Jiao finally came out of her room. He jumped down from the swing and ran towards Gu Jiao with all his strength. "Jiao Jiao." He opened his little arms and was about to throw himself into Gu Jiao's arms as usual. However, he stopped in time when he was halfway to her. He gathered his qi in his lower abdomen and stabilized his lower body. His little feet were firmly nailed to the ground, and his little body swayed as he tried not to fall to the ground. He raised his head and looked at Gu Jiao in disbelief. He pointed at her face with his little finger. "Jiao Jiao?" Gu Jiao smiled and walked forward. She raised her hand and patted his little head. "Wow, what have you been doing? You're tanned again." On the wedding day he was still a boiled egg. Now he was almost a shiny little egg. "Ah." He quickly covered his head and said with grievance and resentment, "It's all Brother Qing's fault. He took me with him on the boat for 3 days. I've become dried fish under the sun." Gu Jiao thought of that scene and laughed until she bent over. She laughed very happily. Little Jing Kong was addicted to her smile and felt very happy. "Jiao Jiao." He looked at her left face curiously. "Why are the flowers on your face gone?" "Flowers?" Gu Jiao was stunned. She suddenly realized that little Jing Kong did not say the word fold just now. He had grown up and was no longer the 3-year-old monk who had just left the mountain. Gu Jiao felt an indescribable feeling in her heart. Was it relief? Or melancholy? There seemed to be a trace of reluctance. She wanted to rub him back and be the little dumpling who followed behind her all day long, and called her Jiao Jiao in a childish voice. When he opened his eyes and did not see her, he would cry until the sky was dark. He would let her plant kisses on his little face and water them every day while waiting for them to sprout. He would always sit on the threshold and wait for her to come home. Jiao Jiao, what's wrong with you? Little Jing Kong saw that Gu Jiao suddenly looked at him and did not speak, so he could not help but ask her. His little eyes could not hide his concern and worry. No matter how much he had grown up, he was still her Jing Kong. Gu Jiao stroked his little head and said softly, "Because I've grown up too, so the flowers are gone." The 6-year-old little Jing Kong thought about it seriously and combined all his written knowledge and agricultural knowledge. He said, "Like the begonia flower? Will it bear fruit when the flowers are gone?" The pea seedlings he planted in the countryside would bear fruit when they grew up. Gu Jiao thought about it and said, "I don't know yet." Oh. He thought about the pea seedlings in the countryside again. He was not sure if all of them had borne fruit, so he decided to plant a few more to observe. Little Jing Kong looked at Gu Jiao, his big eyes full of innocence and innocence. He said, "Jiao Jiao, don't be sad. Even without the flowers, you're still very beautiful. You're the most beautiful." Children had their own unique sense of beauty. In little Jing Kong's eyes, Gu Jiao was the most beautiful girl in the world regardless of whether she had a birthmark or not. On the other side, Marquis Xianping personally went out and caught young Master Mingyu and his bodyguards near Jade Water Alley. He brought the two of them back to a place in Marquis Xianping's mansion that specialized in interrogating disobedient people. A person like him, whose hands were stained with blood, was secretly not a gentleman. The carriage stopped at the gate of the courtyard. The bodyguards lifted the curtain. Marquis Xianping took a handkerchief and wiped the blood on his hands. He said lightly, "Chongjing is not here, so I have to deal with such trivial matters personally." The bodyguards did not dare to say anything. Young Master Mingyu was not easy to deal with. Ordinary secret guards could not do anything to him. Marquis Xianping threw away the handkerchief that he used to wipe the blood on and got off the carriage with a cold expression. Young Master Mingyu and his bodyguards were tied up in a secret room that did not see the light of day. They were hung on a wooden frame. The bodyguards were not able to withstand the beating and had already fainted. Young Master Mingyu was still conscious. He had not been tortured for the time being. The injuries on his body were from the fight with Marquis Xianping. He opened his arms and was unable to move because of the iron chains. The blood at the corner of his mouth meandered down and dripped onto the cold floor along his dusty chin. He looked at Marquis Xianping coldly, his eyes full of murderous intent. Marquis Xianping walked onto the execution platform fearlessly, like the king of the night. Young Master Mingyu's murderous intent was instantly suppressed by his aura, like a clay ox entering the sea. Young Master Mingyu's eyes trembled violently. This man was very dangerous. Marquis Xianping said arrogantly, "I don't like to talk nonsense and I'm not used to beating around the bush. Tell me honestly who you are, who Shirtian is, and what is your relationship with the sword hut. Also." As he spoke, he gave a look to the bodyguard at the side. The bodyguard understood and went forward to pull open young Master Mingyu's lapel, revealing his strong and muscular chest. Above his heart, there was a dark red and black area. Marquis Xianping narrowed his eyes slightly. "So you were poisoned by a venomous insect. No wonder your skills have been eaten away and you can't use them." Young Master Mingyu gritted his teeth and turned his face away. "I won't say it." Marquis Xianping smiled faintly. "You don't need to say it. I have already guessed it." Young Master Mingyu looked at him and frowned. "What have you guessed?" Marquis Xianping chuckled. "You secretly escaped from the sword hut. That sword was also secretly brought out by you. But without it, you can't go back." Young Master Mingyu's pupils suddenly contracted, and he looked at him in disbelief. Marquis Xianping paced a few steps in front of him and said thoughtfully, "It seems that the sword is the key to going to the sword hut. There must be some passage or mechanism that can only be opened with it. No wonder you were so generous as to draw out the map. You were certain that we couldn't get onto the island. Even if we did, we would all die in those mechanisms." Young Master Mingyu couldn't believe that this was true. Marquis Xianping of the Zhao country. He had stayed in the Zhao country for so long. How could he not have heard of such a person? But wasn't this person a brute with all brawn and no brains? Why was he completely different from the rumors? Marquis Xianping turned around and walked down the steps leisurely. He waved his hand and said carelessly, "Kill him." Yes. The bodyguard cupped his hands and pulled out the long sword at his waist. Young Master Ming Yu's heart skipped a beat. Didn't he want to interrogate him? How far was this? He didn't say anything about Shi Tian or his background. Did he not want to know anything about it? Aren't you being too careless like this? Marquis Xianping turned around and smiled arrogantly. With the map and the key, you no longer have any value. Whatever I want to know, I will naturally be able to find out when I get to the island. The bodyguard's sword chopped down at his head. Young Master Ming Yu almost instinctively blurted out, "I am the young master of the sword hut. The sect leader is my father." Marquis Xianping waved his arm and shot out a hidden weapon that knocked away the bodyguard's long sword. Young Master Ming Yu had never felt death so clearly before. His entire body was covered in cold sweat. It mixed with the blood and stuck to his clothes. This man was too terrifying. Did he really plan to kill him, or was he certain that he would confess? What was worse was that people didn't have time to lie in the face of death. Everything he said was true. Damn it. Marquis Xianping looked at him with a smile that wasn't a smile. Then, young master of the sword hut, happy working together? The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1047533692. HTML Genius will remember this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Biku Pavilion's mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 935. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. After coming out of the secret chamber, it was getting late. Marquis Xianping went back to his courtyard and asked someone to prepare a hot bath. Steward Lu looked at him strangely. "Didn't you just wash up after practicing in the morning? I've never seen you so clean before." "What do you know?" Marquis Xianping took off his blood-stained clothes, revealing his strong upper body. His body was covered with scars. It was the body of a general who had been on the battlefield for many years. His muscles were firm, strong, and well-defined. Steward Lu was a man, but he couldn't help but say that he was very envious. He put the clothes into the basket and sighed. "I know, you're going to see the princess." Marquis Xianping raised his hand to untie his belt. "I'm going to see ye." "Forget it, I'm too lazy to talk to you." After bathing, Marquis Xianping changed into dry and light clothes, then went to see his precious daughter. Today, the whole family was eating at Princess Xinyang's place. Little Jing Kong, Shang Guanqing, and the newly married couple. When Marquis Xianping entered the house and saw the big family, he was in a daze. Little Jing Kong looked like a young Xiaoheng. It was as if he had returned to the past, but it wasn't just the past. Gu Jiao, Shang Guanqing, and Yi were also there. He had been alone all these years. He was not used to the sudden bustle. "What are you doing? The food is getting cold," Princess Xinyang said lightly. "You're here." He calmly sat down beside Princess Xinyang. Princess Xinyang's rule was to eat without talking, but she couldn't stand Yi, who was just 6 months old and couldn't stop talking. Little Jing Kong responded to her from time to time, and Shang Guanqing and Xiaoheng bickered. The meal was lively, and there was a bit of the atmosphere of a common family. After eating and drinking, Marquis Xianping and his 2 sons went to the study. Princess Xinyang and Gu Jiao took the 2 little guys for a walk. By the time they returned from their walk, the conversation between the 3 of them had also ended. The brothers' courtyards were in the same direction, So the four of them left together. Shang Guanqing snatched little Jing Kong's toy, and little Jing Kong chased him all over the mansion. The two of them were in hot pursuit. The newlyweds held hands as they strolled along the flower-filled path. Xiao Heng told him about young Master Mingyue. Gu Jiao did not expect Marquis Xianping to act so quickly. It was really surprising. Xiao Heng looked at Shang Guanqing, who stuck out his tongue and made a face at little Jing Kong. He couldn't help laughing and said, "My brother and father are usually not serious, but when they meet someone they care about, they will risk everything." Gu Jiao nodded. Xiao Heng smiled gently and said, "There's no need to be envious. They're your brothers and father now." Gu Jiao. "Then I'll envy myself." Xiao Heng smiled. Gu Jiao said, "So young Master Mingyue is actually the young master of the Sword Hut. Then are he and Long Yi fellow apprentices?" Xiao Heng nodded and said, "Yes, his father is the master of Long Yi and Enhun. Long Yi and Enhun are both orphans. They are also the first batch of children to survive the purple grass poison." Gu Jiao asked, "Are the people of the Sword Hut using the purple grass poison to cultivate men of sacrifice?" Xiao Heng said he's not sure. He only said that he had this guess. Young Master Mingyue's situation was somewhat similar to Changjing's. They both lived on the island, and were also the young masters of hidden sections. However, young Master Mingyue's situation was not as optimistic as Changjing's. He was not the son of the island master's wife. The island master's wife could not bear a child, so she adopted a nephew from her maternal family. She wanted him to inherit the Sword Hut. Who would have thought that not long after, a maid on the island gave birth to a son for the island master. Young Master Mingyue left the island without permission to look for new purple grass. Who would have thought that not long after he left the island, he would be hunted down? Not only did he lose his mystic moon sword, he was also poisoned by the other party. This kind of poison came from the island. If he wanted to detoxify it, he had to return. However, without the mystic moon sword, he could not break the mechanism at the entrance of the island. Gu Jiao suddenly realized. So it was like this. Xiao Heng said. Mingyue said that if this kind of poison is not used, it will take effect very slowly. Once the internal force is used, it will produce a large amount of poison. No wonder he did not fight with us. Gu Jiao touched her chin. I'm really curious about his strength. I also have a question. If the mechanism on the island can only be opened by the sect master's sword, how did the rest of the people return to the island? They can't return. Xiao Heng said. In the past, when the people on the island went out to do something, they only needed to send a signal when they returned. Then a disciple would take the mystic moon sword and open the mechanism. Since the disappearance of the mystic moon sword, the mechanism has never been opened. The people on the island have never returned. Thinking of something, Gu Jiao frowned and said, So Long Yi can't go back either? Xiao Heng said. What he said is the truth that he knows. But maybe there are still things on the island that he does not know. Gu Jiao thought that this made sense. Xiao Heng continued. No matter what, with the young master of the Sword Hut in our hands, the following actions will be much easier. Gu Jiao nodded. Yes. To be honest, this incident happened suddenly, but she did not feel that it was very difficult. Perhaps the most difficult days had passed. Now, she did not have to tread on thin ice no matter what she did. Do you have a plan? She asked. Xiao Heng told her the result of the discussion between the three of them. There are two plans. First, release the news of the mystic moon sword, and lead the people of the Sword Hut to come and find it. Second, go to the Sword Hut personally. The Sword Hut is not far from the Dark Night Island. If the first plan does not work, my father said that he would go and see Changjing on the way. Little Jing Kong played with Shang Guanqing and exhausted all his strength. After taking a bath, he was listless. He carried his small pillow to the wedding room. Gu Jiao thought that he wanted to sleep with her. However, he rubbed his eyes, yawned and said, Jiao Jiao, I'm going to sleep. See you tomorrow. Gu Jiao said in a daze, Okay. See you tomorrow. Little Jing Kong went out with his small pillow in his arms, looking sleepy. Xiao Heng had gradually let little Jing Kong get used to sleeping alone since 3 months ago. The effect was obvious now. Children had to grow up. They had to be separated from their parents and learn to grow their own wings. The next day, after sending little Jing Kong to the Imperial College, Gu Jiao and Xiaoheng went to Pushui Alley. Jinghe Academy was on holiday today. Gu Yan and Gu Xiaoshan were both at home. They were very happy to see Gu Jiao and her brother-in-law. Gu Xiaoshan put down the half-filled water and walked over. He said, "Sister, didn't you just come back? Why are you back?" Gu Jiao raised her eyebrows and said, "You don't want to see me?" "No. I. Gu Xiaoshan scratched his head and stammered. He did not know what to say. He liked his sister very much and wished that he could see her every day. He was afraid that his sister would not stay in the mansion and make his parents-in-law unhappy. Princess Xinyang was a very open-minded mother-in-law. If Gu Jiao really stayed in the mansion and did not go out, she would be worried. What's more, today was a special day. Gu Yan saw through it, but did not say anything. He greeted his sister and brother-in-law and looked outside. "What are you looking at?" Gu Xiaoshan asked him. "Here." Gu Yan used his eyes to signal Gu Xiaoshan to look outside. Gu Xiaoshan looked carefully. Another carriage stopped in front of the door. Eunuch Qin, who was in disguise, helped his great-aunt, who was dressed like an old lady, out of the carriage. "Great-aunt." Gu Xiaoshuan's eyes lit up. "Is your foot okay?" Eunuch Qin corrected. "It's my foot that is not okay." The Empress Dowager fell, and he became a human cushion. Gu Xiaoshan. Gu Xiaoshan coughed softly and asked, "Is Eunuch Qin's foot okay?" Eunuch Qin limped into the room and gave Gu Xiaoshan a look that said, "Go figure it out yourself." "Is Eunuch Qin's temper so bad?" Gu Xiaoshan scratched his head and said to his great-aunt, who was sweating profusely and was about to get a heat stroke, "You don't like to go out on hot days, right? Why did you come here to play the Yi card?" "Yi card, haha." Empress Dowager Zhuang rolled her eyes at him and entered the room with a sour face. Gu Yan said to him, "Fool." Then he also entered the room. Gu Xiaoshan was confused. "What's going on?" Gu Jiao curled her lips. "You've even forgotten your own birthday?" "His birthday?" Gu Xiaoshan was stunned. There were 5 children in the family. Gu Jiao and Gu Yan were fraternal twins. Xiaoheng and little Jingkong's birthdays were on New Year's Eve. They were easy to remember. Only his birthday was lonely. It wasn't a special day, just like him. "What's so good about a small birthday?" He curled his lips and muttered. The tip of his nose was sour, and his eyes were a little hot. Recently, the family was busy with his sister and brother-in-law's marriage. He even forgot his own birthday. "No way, Gu Xiaoshan, are you crying?" Gu Yan had unknowingly grown out from behind him. Gu Xiaoshan quickly wiped his tears and said seriously, "I'm not. I'm a man. How can I cry?" Gu Yan snorted. "You haven't even grown all your hair. How can you be a man?" Gu Xiaoshan asked back, "Have you grown all your hair?" Gu Yan was full of superiority. "I'm older than you." Gu Xiaoshan stretched out a finger. "Just 1 year old." Gu Yan looked up at the sky. "That's still big." The two bickered. Suddenly Yuya rushed in a panic. "Oh no. Something happened." Gu Jiao heard the noise and came out of the room. She asked Yuya, what happened?" Yuya rushed in front of Gu Jiao and grabbed her arms. She sobbed and said, "Madam took Xiaobao to the tea house to buy snacks. The tea house suddenly caught fire. Xiaobao and Madam are trapped inside. They didn't come out." Digression. Today is also the day I want to get monthly votes. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1047539197. HTML Genius memorized the website's address in a second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 936. For more exciting content, Please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with a deeper meaning that can't be found online can be found here. Today was Gu Xiaoshuan's birthday. Early in the morning, Yaoshe brought Gu Xiaobao to the tea house to buy tea and snacks. She never expected to encounter such a situation. A madman actually set fire to the tea house. The fire on the first floor had been extinguished, but none of the customers on the second floor dared to rush out. There was no other reason than the madman had splashed kerosene all over the corridor, and even the backyard. He stood on the roof with a torch in his right hand. There were several large holes in the roof that faced the stairs and corridor. No one could guarantee that the madman would not throw the torch at them the moment they tried to escape. Yuya was able to escape because Gu Xiaobao shouted that he wanted to eat candied haws. She went across the street to buy a skewer. She had just paid when the fire started. The tea house was at the corner of the east end of Chang, an avenue, not far from Jishui Lane. When Gu Jiao and Xiao Heng arrived at the scene, the nearby officials were also alerted. To prevent unnecessary harm, the officials used their bodies as a wall to keep the people far away. The shops across the street were crowded with onlookers. At this time, the Rensho Temple token was useless. Fortunately, Xiao Heng was an official from the Ministry of Justice. The Ministry of Justice is investigating. He handed his Ministry of Justice warrant to the officials. After checking the warrant and confirming that it was authentic, the official's expression softened. Then he looked at Gu Jiao. Who is she? Xiao Heng said without a change in expression. A doctor invited by the Ministry of Justice. The commotion was too big, and many people were injured. The officials did not suspect anything and let the two enter. When the two arrived at the front of the tea house, they unexpectedly saw a familiar figure. Gu Jiao blinked in surprise. Tang Yueshan. Tang Yueshan's left hand was clutching his abdomen, blood seeping from his fingertips. His face was pale, and his breathing was rapid. He was injured. He heard Gu Jiao's voice and turned to look at Gu Jiao. At the same time he saw Xiao Heng. He frowned and hesitated. It was obvious that he was embarrassed and distressed. The two of them looked at the arsonist on the roof at the same time. The arsonist's hair was unkempt, and it took them a lot of effort to recognize him. Tang Ming. Gu Jiao was puzzled. It's him, Xiao Heng said. The last time he saw Tang Ming was 2 or 3 years ago. At that time, no matter how dark and despicable he was in his heart, he was at least a playboy on the surface. He was like a completely different person from the crazy arsonist in front of him. What happened? Gu Jiao asked Tang Yueshan. She glanced at his abdomen. You're injured. Yueshan, Tang Yueshan, did he do this? Gu Jiao was referring to Tang Ming. With Tang Yueshan's martial arts skills, it would be difficult for anyone to hurt him in a one-on-one fight, unless the big shots intervened. Tang Yueshan sighed. After I returned to the capital, I found him hanging out with some shady people. I had a big fight with him, and he ran away from home. This morning, I found him lying in a gambling den, taking cold food powder with those people. Cold food powder was a drug used to treat typhoid fever. However, it had a side effect. It could make people feel absent-minded, which was similar to ecstasy. Long-term consumption could be addictive. No wonder Tang Ming's mental state seemed abnormal. Tang Yueshan's mood was complicated. He was angry and annoyed. I beat those people, beat him up too. I ordered him not to have any contact with them in the future, or I would kill them all. Gu Jiao asked. And then he attacked you. Tang Yueshan said bitterly. He wanted to kill himself. I went to grab the knife and accidentally injured myself. As the saying went, don't wash your dirty linen in public. To outsiders, they were uncle and nephew. However, Gu Jiao and Xiao Heng knew that Tang Yueshan and Tang Ming were actually father and son. Now that things had turned out this way, it was really embarrassing. What are you going to do? Gu Jiao asked Tang Yueshan. With Tang Yueshan's archery skills, he could shoot him down with one arrow. The problem was that the torch in his hand would fall after he fell. It would be terrible if it ignited the whole tea house. Tang Yueshan looked at the delirious Tang Ming on the roof and said with difficulty, I want to calm him down first and lure him down. But he doesn't seem to be listening to me now. Gu Jiao said, He just took cold food powder. His mood is unstable. You talk to him here. I'll go up and catch him. Tang Yueshan stopped her. No. There's kerosene all over. Gu Jiao said seriously. My mother and brother are in the tea house. Tang Yueshan choked. After a while, he awkwardly squeezed out a few words. I'm sorry. Gu Jiao said calmly. Let's not talk about this for now. Let's stick to the plan. Okay. Tang Yueshan clenched his fists and agreed. You have to be careful. Xiao Heng reminded Gu Jiao. I understand. Wait for me here. Gu Jiao said and turned into the back of the tea house through the alleyway. The back of the tea house was burned into a mess. The fire was extinguished, but there were still many small flames left. The officials extinguished the fire, while trying not to make too much noise. They were afraid that they would provoke Tang Ming on the roof. Tang Ming's body was on the verge of collapse. It was as if he would fall down with the torch in the next second. Tang Yueshan hurriedly said, Minger, come down. We can talk things out. I won't stop you from making friends. Just do whatever you want to do. Uncle won't stop you. Uncle. Tang Ming seemed to be provoked by this word. He suddenly became alert and looked at Tang Yueshan mockingly. The 5 minerals powder was so strong that he could not see clearly. But even so, he could still recognize that this person was his good uncle. He suddenly laughed crazily. Uncle. Uncle. Are you my uncle? Are you? Do you dare to swear to the heavens that you're my uncle? The onlookers all looked at Tang Yueshan. What did Tang Ming mean? Tang Yueshan was his father's younger brother. Didn't that make him his uncle? Everyone's attention was focused on the first word, biological uncle. Could it be that Tang Yueshan was not old Master Tang's biological son, so they were not uncle and nephew? That was impossible. Tang Yueshan looked very similar to old Master Tang. Everyone who saw him believed that they were not father and son. Tang Yueshan's cheeks were burning. Ming, come down first. We'll talk at home. Tang Ming roared. Who wants to go home with you? Do you dare to tell the whole world what you've done? The onlookers were even more curious. It seemed that there was a big problem in the Tang family. Xiao Heng said indifferently. Tang Ming, what do you think of your mother by doing this? You don't care about others, but don't you care about your mother? Once the relationship between father and son was exposed, Tang Yueshan would be criticized, but Mrs. Tang would not be able to escape unscathed. Mrs. Tang could not bear the loneliness and seduced her brother-in-law. If such a reputation was spread, Mrs. Tang would be drowned in the public spit. Perhaps Xiao Heng's words had awakened Tang Ming's last bit of rationality. He swallowed the shocking secret that was about to come out of his mouth. Xiao Heng said airily, Your mother will be worried. Come down quickly. Tang Ming sneered. You want me to come down? In your dreams? Xiao Heng asked Tang Yueshan in a low voice. Is there anything he wants in particular? Tang Yueshan had an idea. The Tang family bow. Tang Ming had always wanted to get the Tang family bow and become the heir of the Tang family army. Unfortunately, Tang Yueshan was never satisfied with him. Just before Tang Yueshan went to war, the two of them had a conflict because of the Tang family bow. Tang Yueshan remembered that his tone was a little harsh at that time. Is it because of this that he went to take the cold food powder tomorrow? Tang Yueshan was insensitive when it came to family matters. Only now did he realize that Tang Ming had always been trying to be the heir in his mind, even if he was almost crippled by Gu Jiao. But he never gave up. He worked hard to practice martial arts and recover his body. He was full of expectations and wanted to take over the Tang family bow, but his father strongly opposed it. He said that he was not worthy. Xiao Heng said decisively. Give him the Tang family bow. Tang Yueshan was stunned. What? Xiao Heng said calmly. Announce that he is the next owner of the Tang family bow. Tang Yueshan's face changed. No. Xiao Heng said. Is the bow more important or your son more important? Tang Yueshan frowned. Both are important, but no buts. Xiao Heng said and stopped arguing with Tang Yueshan. He looked at the man on the roof and said, Tang Ming, if you die, the Tang family bow will belong to someone else forever. Hearing the Tang family bow, the The obsession in Tang Ming's heart disappeared. At this time, Gu Jiao slowly climbed up the wall. Because it was covered in kerosene, it was very slippery. She almost fell down several times. Xiao Heng's hands, which were hidden in his wide sleeves, suddenly clenched. He said to Tang Yueshan, "If you don't give it to me, your son and Jiao Jiao will die." Tang Yueshan gritted his teeth and went to the carriage to get his Tang family bao. Tang Ming looked at the bao greedily. Tang Yueshan took a deep breath and said with difficulty, "Come down. I'll give you the Tang family bao." Tang Ming said coldly, "Give it to me first, then I'll come down." "Give it to him," Xiao Heng said. Tang Yueshan gritted his teeth and threw the bao in his hand onto the roof. Even though Tang Ming had been poisoned by the cold food powder, he was still vigilant of his surroundings. However, the moment the Tang family bao flew toward him, he completely forgot about everything. All that was left in his eyes was the Tang family bao. He held the torch tightly with one hand and eagerly reached out with the other. Now was the time. Gu Jiao leaped up and grabbed onto the roof with one hand. She pulled up forcefully and flipped her entire body in the air. She landed steadily behind Tang Ming and kicked him down with one foot. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that you can't find online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1047352110. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikago mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 937. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with a deeper meaning that can't be found online are all available here. Tang Ming and the torch in his hand fell to the ground together. There was an empty space in front of them, so it was fine if the torch fell. As for what kind of pig head Tang Ming would become, Gu Jiao didn't care. Gu Jiao stretched out her hand and caught the Tang family's bao. Tang Yueshan ignored the injury on his upper abdomen and flew up to catch the falling Tang Ming in midair. The torch fell to the ground, but it didn't cause any injuries. He paused in midair and looked at Gu Jiao, who was playing with the Tang bao, and said fiercely, "Don't touch my Tang bao." Gu Jiao nonchalantly said, "Oh." She arrogantly touched the Tang bao from head to toe, not even letting go of the bowstring. Tang Yueshan. Tang Ming's acupoints were sealed by Tang Yueshan, and he was sent to the carriage. With the crisis averted, the officials rushed into the tea house to save the people. Gu Jiao and Xiao Heng found Yao Shi and Gu Xiaobao in a room at the end of the second floor. The ones who were scared out of their wits were Yao Shi and Gu Xiaobao. Gu Xiaobao was a quiet child, but sometimes when he was too quiet, it made people's hearts ache. Xiao Heng carried Gu Xiaobao over. Gu Xiaobao lay in his brother-in-law's arms, not moving at all. They were scared out of their wits. Gu Jiao helped Yao Shi, whose legs were weak, up and asked, "Mother, are you hurt?" Yao Shi rubbed her chest and said in a shaken voice, "No, we're not hurt. Your hand is bleeding." Gu Jiao noticed that the back of Yao Shi's right hand was covered in blood. Yao Shi raised her hand and looked at it, saying, "Maybe I accidentally knocked it just now." Gu Jiao looked at the injury on her hand. It was an open wound, but it wasn't too serious. She said, "It's not safe here. Let's go out first." The four of them went downstairs. Their horse carriage was parked nearby. Gu Jiao first went to the carriage to clean up and bandage Yao Shi's wounds. Xiao Heng sent Yao Shi and Gu Xiaobao back to Jade Water Lane while Gu Jiao went to treat the other injured citizens. Tang Yueshan didn't leave. He was waiting for Gu Jiao. However, he did not rush Gu Jiao. He waited until Gu Jiao finished treating the last patient before calling Gu Jiao to his carriage. Tang Ming had fainted, and his pulse and breathing were unstable. Tang Yueshan said awkwardly, "I know you hate Ming-er. I won't blame you if you don't want to treat him." Gu Jiao said. He doesn't need me to treat his illness. If he quits the cold food powder, he will recover without any medicine. Tang Yueshan found it hard to believe. Really? Of course. Gu Jiao nodded. She didn't lie to Tang Yueshan about this. The grudge between her and Tang Ming was over. Tang Ming had paid the price for what he did in the past. As long as Tang Ming didn't provoke her again, she wouldn't kill him. It's not that easy to quit, she emphasized. I will accompany him, Tang Yueshan said. Gu Jiao looked at him in surprise. The Grand Marshal of the world's armed forces had such a profound side to him. Tang Yueshan said sadly. He already knows that he was wrong. The reason he indulged himself like that was all because of me. He holds a grudge against me, and my eldest brother. He had deliberately raised him astray, and that was why he had such a personality and a sense of right and wrong. Tang Yueshan didn't say these words. He said guiltily. These 2 years he tried very hard to change himself. He wanted to prove to me that I was the one who cruelly denied him time and time again. Gu Jiao asked. Why did you deny him? Is it because you don't like him? Tang Yueshan shook his head. No, he's my son. How can I not like him? He denied Tang Ming for other reasons. Gu Jiao asked curiously. He did so many horrible things. Have you never thought of abandoning him? Tang Yueshan said firmly. Never. If he did something wrong, I would hit him, scold him, and punish him. But I will never abandon him. Gu Jiao was deep in thought. Tang Ming's episode had a slight impact on Gu Jiao's thoughts. It wasn't strange for smart and sensible children to be doted on by their parents. But for a son like Tang Ming, Tang Yueshan had never thought of abandoning him. Gu Jiao sensed a power from Tang Yueshan that she had always been lacking in. This power affected her, causing her state of mind to change. When they returned to Jade Water Lane, Madame Yao and Gu Xiaobao were already fine. Madame Yao was playing cards with her great-aunt in the courtyard. Gu Xiaobao was pulled to the backyard by little Jing Kong, who had just returned from school, to comb the horses' manes. The 2 horses were lying on the ground. The Horse King rolled his eyes in disgust. But it couldn't kick the horse because the Black Wind King would beat it. Although it was already 3 years old, it was still no match for the Black Wind King. It was a story sadder than sad. The Black Wind King was very friendly to human children. Gu Xiaobao's small body lay on its neck. He had just experienced a scare. The Black Wind King's strong and gentle aura comforted him. Gu Xiaobao was not so scared anymore. In the evening, Xian Yuanqi and his son, as well as Dukan, came over. Dukan was very particular when he visited. He would usually choose when her great-aunt was also present. The 3 of them gave Gu Xiaoshan the birthday gifts they had prepared. Gu Xiaoshan was a little confused. It was just a small birthday celebration. Why were there so many big shots? Then at night, Gu Changqing and Gu Chengfeng also came over. Looking at the birthday gifts stuffed in his chest, he became a little confused. Fruit on the tree. There's no need to make such a big fuss. I'm only 17 years old. I'm not even 20 years old. Are you celebrating my birthday? Or finding an excuse to come to Jade Water Lane? Gu Chengfeng squinted his eyes. What do you think? Gu Xiaoshan had an epiphany. He clenched his fist and said, Of course it's to celebrate my birthday. The Gu brothers were speechless. Gu Chengfeng laughed dryly. It's good to be a little naive. The weather was hot. Dinner was placed in the courtyard. Tonight, the old chancellor was in charge of cooking. He cooked a table full of Zhao country specialties according to the children's tastes. He also cooked a few Yan country dishes according to Dukan and Xian Yuanqi's tastes. Little Jing Kong said, Young master, I want to eat brown sugar glutinous rice cake. The old chancellor said without hesitation, No more. It's gone so fast. Empress Dowager Zhuang muttered. She also wanted to eat it. The old chancellor coughed lightly and said to little Jing Kong without changing his expression, There seems to be some glutinous rice flour left in the jar. I'll go and take a look. Little Jing Kong crossed his arms and snorted. Grandaunt has it when she eats it, but I don't have it when I eat it. Granduncle is biased. The old chancellor was flustered. What are you talking about? I just remembered that I have it. I'll make it for you. I'll make it for you now. Then he went to the kitchen seriously and made a bowl of brown sugar glutinous rice cake. He sprinkled white sesame seeds and put it in front of Empress Dowager Zhuang. It was 108,000 miles away from little Jing Kong. Little Jing Kong, who couldn't even reach with a ladder, was speechless. At the end of the dinner, Gu Xiaoshan ate a bowl of longevity noodles. Little Jing Kong and Gu Xiaobao each got a small bowl of longevity noodles. Today was Gu Xiaoshuan's birthday, so she didn't force the children to practice martial arts. Xian Yuanqi went to the backyard to play with little Jing Kong and the others. Gu Yan dragged Gu Changqing to his granduncle's courtyard when no one was paying attention. "What's the matter?" Gu Changqing asked Gu Yan. Gu Yan said, "Give me special treatment." Gu Changqing was stunned for a moment before he realized that Gu Yan wanted to continue practicing the boxing technique from last time. Gu Yan's motive for practicing martial arts was very simple. He wanted to show off to the little monk. He didn't expect himself to become a martial arts master or a swordsman. Gu Changqing didn't care about his motive. Practicing martial arts could strengthen the body. As long as he was willing, he had no reason not to teach him. He looked at Gu Yan lovingly and said, "You finished learning the boxing technique from last time. I'll teach you a set of palm techniques." Gu Yan's eyes lit up. "Iron sand palm? The kind that can stay in hot sand for a long time?" Gu Changqing smiled. "No. If you want to practice to that level, you won't be able to do it without 7 or 8 years of hard work." Oh, Gu Yan only wanted to show off quickly. He didn't want to practice hard. Gu Changqing taught him a set of palm techniques that looked impressive, but in reality, could only be used to strengthen his body. It was late at night. The children were tired from playing. Gu Jiao and the others also went home. Grand-aunt was old. Gu Jiao and Xiao Heng didn't tell her and granduncle about the sword hut. Xian Yuanqi and Dukan knew about it. They asked Xiao Heng in private, and got the information from young Master Mingyue. They sat in the carriage with little Jing Kong, who was sleeping soundly as soon as he got on the carriage. Xian Yuanqi was carrying little Jing Kong. Horse King and another Black Wind horse were pulling the carriage. With Horse King, the carriage was fully automatic. Black Wind King walked at a leisurely pace and stared at it. He didn't want it to run off to some corner to play. Xian Yuanqi said, "Are you planning to try and spread the news to attract the people from the sword hut?" Xiao Heng nodded. "That's right. If this plan doesn't work, my father will go to the sword hut personally. The people from the sword hut won't come," Xian Yuanqi said with certainty. "Why?" Gu Jiao looked at him in confusion. He said, "The young master of the sword hut has been missing for many years. If they wanted to come, they would have come long ago. Your father just had a daughter. It's inconvenient for him to be separated from his wife and child. Zheng Er and I will go this time." The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. All the novels that can't be found online are here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896428226/1047344443. HTML Genius memorized the website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion's mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 938. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Liaochen had no objection to this. He had long wanted to go to the sword hut and take revenge for the Shadow Division. It was definitely not to avoid the pursuit of that cow-nosed man. "Right, where's my daughter-in-law?" Xian Yuanqi suddenly asked. Liaochen was speechless. On the other side, Empress Dowager Zhuang also returned to the palace. She glanced at the old chancellor who had rubbed against her carriage for the umpteenth time. Her eyes were like daggers. The old chancellor said without changing his expression, I suddenly remembered that I have an urgent matter to report to His Majesty. After a pause, under the cold gaze of Empress Dowager Zhuang, he said, "My carriage is broken." Empress Dowager Zhuang was too lazy to pay attention to him. She hugged her candied fruit jar and closed her eyes to rest. Today's candied fruit was personally made by Gu Jiao, and Empress Dowager Zhuang cherished it very much. After entering the palace, Empress Dowager Zhuang glanced at someone and said, "Still not getting out of the carriage? Have we arrived? So fast?" The old chancellor muttered with dissatisfaction and got out of the carriage resentfully under Empress Dowager Zhuang's sharp gaze. The carriage carried Empress Dowager Zhuang in the direction of Renshou Palace. The old chancellor looked in the direction of the carriage without saying a word until a palace guard on duty came over and bowed to him. "Lord Hua, the palace gate is about to be locked. Do you have something to report to His Majesty? I'll ask them to wait." "No need, it's fine." The old chancellor waved his wide sleeves, put his hands behind his back, and strode out of the palace. Only the palace guard was left behind. He scratched his head and looked confused. "You entered the palace in the middle of the night to admire the moon?" Xiao Heng and Gu Jiao returned to the princess residence. They first went to greet Princess Xinyang, but were told that the princess was not there. The maid reported, "Something happened in the barracks today. The Duke went to the barracks and didn't come back until night. Miss wanted her father, and cried until she couldn't catch her breath. The princess had no choice but to take Miss out to see the lanterns." As she spoke, she looked around and whispered, "Actually, he went to look for the marquis." Everyone in the manor was well aware of this, but who would dare to expose Princess Xinyang? Did he not want to live anymore? Xiao Heng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The princess of Xinyang, who had been the great empress of the household for so many years and who always kept her word, was actually being toyed around by a little kid one day. Not bad. She was more capable than her two brothers. The couple returned to the Lanting courtyard. Xiao Heng carried little Jing Kong back to the house and gave him a bath. Little Jing Kong was in a deep sleep and did not wake up even when his bad brother-in-law kept poking him. When Xiao Heng took the pajamas for him to change into, he suddenly realized that the cuffs and trousers were shorter. It was also at this moment that Xiao Heng truly realized that the little kid had grown up. Jing Kong was brought home by Gu Jiao when he was 3 years old. In the past 3.5 years, on the surface, Jing Kong was more attached to Gu Jiao. This was because he always said Jiao Jiao, Jiao Jiao, but in fact he spent the most time with Xiao Heng. First of all, they slept in the same room, which took up 1/3 of their time. Secondly, Gu Jiao couldn't take him with her when she went to battle. But when he went to the Yan kingdom to look for Gu Jiao, the little kid followed him closely. He had never raised a child before, so he had no experience in dealing with children. He accepted him because he was brought back by Gu Jiao. But after a difficult journey and a battle of wits and courage, the two of them became an inseparable part of each other's lives. Xiao Heng pinched the cuffs that were shorter and said, "He's starting to grow taller. It's time to make new clothes. You really don't save the cloth." Little Jing Kong mumbled in his sleep, as if he was complaining about his muttering. When Xiao Heng returned to the upper room, Gu Jiao had finished washing up. She was wearing cold silk pajamas and sitting at the table, sorting out the medicine in the small medicine box. When Xiao Heng saw her, he felt a sense of peace. He smiled and said softly, "I'm going to take a bath first." "Oh, okay." Gu Jiao continued to bury her head in sorting out the medicine. When Xiao Heng came out of the bath, she was still sorting out the medicine with a strange expression. "What's wrong?" He came to her side and asked. 1, 2, 3. Gu Jiao counted the anti-inflammatory medicine in the box and turned to Xiao Heng. "Did you notice that it seems to have become bigger? Is it a medicine box?" Xiao Heng looked at it carefully. Gu Jiao said, "In the past this box could only fit 2 boxes side by side. Today there are 3 boxes." Xiao Heng didn't have a deep memory of the internal structure of the small medicine box. He only knew that it looked small, but it was very big. In Gu Jiao's words, there was a different dimension inside. As for the box, Xiao Heng looked at it for a moment and measured its length, width and height with his fingers. "It seems to have grown by 1 inch. Gu Jiao opened her eyes wide and said, "Is that right? I just found out today. The main reason was that she had been busy with her wedding recently. After the wedding, she had been shameless and had almost no time to sort it out carefully. The small medicine box was too mysterious. Gu Jiao still couldn't completely understand it. She could only be sure that it came from a higher civilization and wasn't a product of this dimension. Xiao Heng sat down beside her and asked, "How did you get this box in the first place?" "Godfather gave it to me," Gu Jiao said truthfully. Gu Jiao had confessed to Xiao Heng about her origins. She said that she came from another space-time. In terms that Xiao Heng could understand, it was her soul that occupied this body. However, she rarely mentioned her specific experience in that space-time. What's a godfather? This was a new term for Xiao Heng. Gu Jiao explained to Xiao Heng the meaning of a godfather in the market. However, in the organization, it didn't mean father. It was more of a respectful title for the leader of one's group. In fact, her godfather wasn't much older than her. She clearly remembered that when she was 8 years old, her grandmother, the only person who took care of her, passed away. She sat alone under the muddy eaves and was drenched by the heavy rain. She shivered and thought that she was going to freeze to death. Then, a pair of shiny black military boots stepped on the mud and walked towards her. The rain was too heavy. She raised her head to look at him, but she couldn't open her eyes at all. She only remembered that when she lowered her head, a cold and slender hand stretched out in front of her. It was the most beautiful hand she had ever seen. Who are you? Ping. In the future, call me Godfather. The 16-year-old boy's voice was low and deep, calm and cold-blooded. While Gu Jiao was deep in thought, Xiao Heng looked at her without blinking. This was the first time he heard from her about another man. You care about him a lot, he said. His tone was firm. Yes. Gu Jiao nodded without hesitation and said seriously, if it weren't for him, I wouldn't be who I am now. If her godfather hadn't picked her up, she would have frozen to death in the heavy rain. Her godfather had taught her all her skills. But when it came to her godfather's memories, she suddenly felt uncertain. She hadn't felt this way before. She couldn't tell exactly when it started, but recently, she felt more and more like she had forgotten something very important. Wife, Xiao Heng said calmly, I'm jealous. The kind that couldn't be coaxed. Gu Jiao looked at him blankly. Why? Xiao Heng, the king of jealousy, confessed expressionlessly. You've never cared about me this much. Gu Jiao. The moon was dark and the wind was strong. A carriage traveled on the wide official road. You little troublemaker, do you have to go find your father? Inside the carriage, Princess Xinyang hugged the little fellow in her arms and asked with hidden bitterness. At this time, other children had already gone to bed, but her obedient daughter's gem-like eyes were still wide open, without the slightest hint of sleepiness. Have the carriage turn around. Princess Xinyang ordered Eugene. Eugene ordered the driver. As soon as the carriage turned around, the quiet little E in her arms clenched her fists and began to cry. Princess Xinyang stomped her feet in anger. The carriage finally stopped near the military camp. At this time, the civil officials had already finished their shifts, and the generals were a bit late. There were many carriages parked on both sides of the road. Princess Xinyang specially chose an inconspicuous position, so no one noticed anything strange. Little E obediently nestled in her mother's arms and waited for her father. Finally, Marquis Xianping came out. It's the Marquis. Eugene peeked through the gap in the rear window curtain. There seems to be another person with him. Is it General Qian? General Qian was a general of the imperial court. He was originally the Marquis' subordinate, but recently he had been transferred to the capital's west camp. Wait first. Princess Xinyang said. She didn't want people to find out that she had come to find Xiao Ji. The two chatted happily for a long time. When General Qian suddenly mentioned that he wanted to invite Marquis Xianping to Soft Fragrance Pavilion to listen to music. Soft Fragrance Pavilion was a famous brothel in the capital. It was as famous as a mortal music house, and the girls inside were all beautiful. Recently, many beauties have come to Soft Fragrance Pavilion. This one boldly invites the Marquis to listen to some music. General Qian said with a smile. Eugene looked at her family's princess without batting an eyelid. Princess Xinyang's expression didn't change at all. She said in a low voice, "Princess." Princess Xinyang said firmly, "He won't agree. He still has to go back and coaxy." Then Marquis Xianping boarded General Qian's carriage. After the two left, Eugene didn't even dare to breathe loudly. "Return to the residence." Princess Xinyang said coldly. Aren't you going to take a look?" Eugene asked in a low voice. Princess Xinyang said unhappily, "What's there to see? If he wants to go to a brothel, do you think I'm going to stop him? He can go wherever he wants, it has nothing to do with me." Little Yi probably felt her mother's murderous aura, so she obediently stayed motionless and didn't cry for her father. Half an hour later, Princess Xinyang's carriage stopped at the entrance of Soft Fragrance Pavilion. Digression. It's almost over. If there's anything that hasn't been explained, or if there's anything that everyone wants to see, you can tell me in the comments section. The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896422826/10471580 HTML Genius remembers this site's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg. Chapter 939. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Princess Xinyang's face darkened. "Why are we here?" Eugene's eyes flashed and she smiled awkwardly. The carriage broke down. The coachman said, The wheels are loose. I have to fix it." Xiao Yi, who was nestled in the bride's arms, cried out, "Wow! Princess Xinyang." She raised her chin like a proud peacock. "Don't do these useless things. I won't go in and catch them in the act." She was a princess of a country. How could she lower herself and step into such a brothel? Besides, she and Xiaoji weren't real husband and wife. They had agreed that she wouldn't interfere with him no matter what he did. She lifted the curtain and said to the coachman, "Is it fixed? If not, you don't have to come to the princess residence tomorrow." The coachman trembled in fear and glanced at Eugene awkwardly. He could only help here. If this went on, his bowl would be gone. Xiao Yi pursed her lips. Princess Xinyang looked at her fiercely. "You two, don't cry. Her mother was murderous." Xiao Yi shut her mouth, feeling wronged. Princess Xinyang put down the curtain and was about to leave when she caught a glimpse of a sneaky figure from the corner of her eye. She saw it first, so she put down the curtain. But people didn't react so quickly. When she lifted the curtain again, the figure was gone. She felt strange and felt that things weren't simple. "Hold Yi and wait for me in the carriage." She handed Xiao Yi to Eugene. Eugene didn't know what she had seen and thought that she had seen the marquis and was going to catch them in the act. "Princess, don't worry. I won't disturb you." Princess Xinyang didn't explain to her and got out of the carriage. That person first entered the alley and used a long knife to open General Qian's carriage. There was no one in the carriage, so he turned and entered Soft Fragrance Pavilion from the back door. At this point, Princess Xinyang was certain that the other party had come for Xiaoji or General Qian. It was very likely that it was Xiaoji. After all, this person was used to attracting hatred. It could be said that within 10 steps, there would always be an enemy. She chased after him. Soft Fragrance Pavilion didn't look big from the front, but in fact, there were a few small gardens in the backyard. When she went around the corridor to the second small garden, she saw a figure in front of the rockery. She recognized that it was Xiaoji. "Someone wants to kill." Before he could finish, Xiaoji raised his knife and stabbed it into the assassin's heart. The assassin didn't even have time to scream before he fell into a pool of blood with his eyes wide open. Princess Xinyang froze in place. She only opened her mouth when Xiaoji stabbed her. It was too late for her to withdraw her hand. She didn't want to be so bloody in front of her. He kicked the assassin's body into a crack in the fake mountain and threw the murder weapon inside. He wiped his hands with a handkerchief before turning to look at Princess Xinyang. He smiled nonchalantly. Qin Fengwan, you followed me all the way just to say this? Followed me all the way? This guy already knew I was following him? Princess Xinyang's heart shook, but she didn't show it on her face. She said calmly, I didn't follow you. I was just passing by. You, on the other hand, knew that Yi was coming to find you, yet you still got into the carriage with someone else. Xiaoji tilted his head to look at her, his good-looking lips curling up slightly. Qin Fengwan, are you jealous? Princess Xinyang glared at him fiercely, but didn't want to argue with him. She turned to leave. At this moment, General Qian came over from another small garden and walked in their direction. She couldn't let anyone find out that she was here. Not only would it lower her status, but the rumor that she caught Xiaoji in the middle of the night visiting a brothel would spread throughout the capital the next day. She, Qin Fengwan, couldn't afford to lose face like this. She gritted her teeth and quickly walked toward the rockery, planning to hide behind it. But when she got there, she saw how terrifying the bloodstains on the ground were. She couldn't step over them. Marquis, General Qian smiled and greeted Xiaoji. Qin Fengwan trembled all over. Xiaoji glanced at her, pulled her over, and moved 2 steps to the side, pressing her against the other half of the rockery that wasn't splashed with blood. The grass under her feet was also clean. He used his broad body to block her, his arms on both sides of her. The two were so close that they were almost face to face. Their breaths intertwined. Princess Xinyang, who wasn't used to being so close to a man, felt her heart tighten. Her breathing instinctively quickened and became difficult, and her body started to tremble slightly. Xiaoji took in her symptoms and frowned. He moved back slightly to create some space between them. Marquis, why are you here? General Qian asked. Don't come over. Xiaoji ordered. He didn't look back and just stared at Qin Fengwan without blinking. I have something to do. Go back to your room first. General Qian paused in his steps. He didn't understand why Marquis Xianping was like this. He craned his neck to take a look. Marquis Xianping was tall and muscular. He could block people, but he couldn't block Princess Xinyang's dress that was blown up by the night wind. General Qian smiled meaningfully. So Marquis is here to meet a beauty in private. Is it Miss Chen Xiang? No wonder Marquis agreed so readily tonight. You must be missing the beauty. Princess Xinyang looked coldly at Xiaoji. Xiaoji's teeth hurt. He wished he could turn around and give Qian a kick. General Qian didn't seem to know that his head was already tied to his belt, and continued to court death. Since Miss Chen Xiang is also here, why don't Marquis bring her up to sit? It's not Chen Xiang. Xiaoji gritted his teeth. Oh, then who is it? General Qian was curious. Xiaoji looked at Qin Fengwan's cold gaze and narrowed his eyes. He suddenly laughed hoarsely. The new beauty is very shy, so she won't meet you all. His flirtatious tone made Qin Fengwan want to raise her knee and kick him. That place. Make him unable to do it again. General Qian chuckled. Is there a shy girl in Soft Fragrance Pavilion? It's just a method to seduce men. Marquis just came down, and she created a chance encounter with Marquis. In my opinion, her methods are impressive. Listen, does this sound like something a human would say? It's not unreasonable that he hasn't been promoted for 10,000 years. Princess Xinyang wanted to sentence General Qian to death. Seeing her bristling with anger, Xiaoji couldn't help but smile. Her methods are indeed impressive. Princess Xinyang glared at Xiaoji. Xiaoji smiled unrestrainedly at her, but the words he said to General Qian didn't have the slightest bit of warmth. Go up, Marquis. Military order. General Qian's expression turned solemn. Yes. After he left, Xiaoji released her from his arms and walked to the side. He looked at her indifferently and said, Don't come to this kind of place in the future, and don't follow assassins. Princess Xinyang said expressionlessly, Just take care of yourself. Xiaoji said, I was followed yesterday. Today, I purposely went to the military camp to lure them out. They were very cautious and didn't make a move. Princess Xinyang looked at him. Did I ruin your plan? Xiaoji sighed. Yes, he discovered you. If I didn't kill him, you would have been in danger. If I killed him, I would have alerted the enemy, and his accomplices would have all run away. Princess Xinyang lowered her eyes. Xiaoji looked at her and said with a faint smile, Qin Fengwan, you're suddenly so concerned about me. Don't tell me you've really fallen for me? The guilt in Princess Xinyang's heart disappeared in a second. The king of atmosphere ruining, Xiaoji. Princess Xinyang returned to the carriage. Xiaoji also followed. Princess Xinyang didn't let him get on the carriage. What are you doing here? Aren't you going to continue visiting your brothel? Your Miss Chen Xiang is waiting for you. Inside the carriage, Xiao Yi started crying. Daddy's here. Act coquettishly. Let's go. Xiaoji raised his brows and gestured in the direction of her hand. Princess Xinyang glared at the crying little fella in Eugen's arms with a dark expression. He really is your father's biological son. After returning to the residence, the first thing Xiao Yi did was to use her eyes to find a washboard for her father. Xiaoji. 3 days later, Xian Yuanqi and Liaochen set off, accompanied by young Master Mingyue and his servant. They brought a troop of the Dark Shadow Division and entered the Yin Kingdom through the waterway. Then they went all the way to the northwest and advanced towards the ice field. On the 3rd day of the 7th lunar month, the capital of the Zhao Kingdom held a junior advisor exam. It was jointly hosted by the Imperial Cabinet and the Ministry of Rights. The main content of the exam was 8-part essay and political theory. In order to not restrict talents to one category, Grand Secretary Yuan relaxed the requirements for the exam and raised the age limit to 25 years old. The original limit was 20 years old. Those who met this age requirement could participate in the exam. Feng Lin and Lin Qingye were of the same age, but unfortunately, one of them was ranked 123rd and the other was ranked 99th. They were both grand scholars. Du Ruhan, on the other hand, was ranked 13th and was ranked grand scholar on both lists. He was 1 day away from reaching 25 years old. Empress Dowager Zhuang held a letter in her hand. It was sent to the border. Zhuang Yuheng was the previous year's 2nd place. He was only 1 year older than Xiaoheng. But in the end, this letter was not sent out. He can't beat Aheng. This widow just wants to use this chance to have him return to the capital for this widow to take a look. This widow is already so old. I don't know how many years I have left to live. I want to see him. But that child might not want to return to the capital. The junior advisor exam had been registered the previous year. During this year, the other examinees had been busy preparing for the exam. Xiaoheng, however, had gone to the distant Yin Kingdom and was completely unaware of this matter. After returning to the country, he had been busy with the Ministry of Justice and the wedding. He had very little time to prepare for the exam. Even Princess Xinyang felt that her son had neglected his studies for too long, and that his chances of passing were not high. When the results came out, everyone was dumbfounded. In the 3 exams, Xiaoheng had obtained 1st place with an overwhelming advantage. Looking at the exam papers sent by the Ministry of Rights, Princess Xinyang did not dare to believe her eyes. You're like a boy who has just eaten meat all day long. You're always together with your wife, but I don't see you studying. Little Jing Kong also ran over to look at his bad brother-in-law's exam paper. After reading it, he nodded seriously and turned to go to Xiaoheng's study. I heard that you're going to be a junior advisor. He got straight to the point. Is a junior advisor very good? Is it a very high-ranking official? Xiaoheng showed off. Of course it's very good. It's standard 3rd rank. It's the same rank as son-in-law. Finally, the joke of being the last place could be passed. Little Jing Kong waved his small hand and sternly said, Since you're going to be a high-ranking official, the rent for Baishui Alley should be increased. The family price is 100 taels per month. Yearly payment. Xiaoheng. On the 18th of July, they had been married for a month. They could no longer live in the bridal chamber. The people of Chongping Marquis residence set off for their fief. Gu Jinyu did not bid farewell to anyone, including old Madame Gu, who had facilitated this marriage. The procession went out of the East City Gate. Gu Jinyu and Chun Lu sat silently in the carriage. The curtain was lifted by the breeze and light came in. Gu Jinyu's expression was cold. She still wore a veil in the carriage, but it could not hide the bruise on her brow bone. On the second day after Gu Jinyu left the capital, Xiao Heng and Gu Jiao discussed where to live in the future. They could move into the princess residence that her great-aunt gave to Gu Jiao at any time, but Lady Yao and her great-aunt were used to Bai Shui Alley. They decided to live in Princess Xinyang's residence and Bai Shui Alley. Sometimes a small decision could affect the whole family. Because the children were here, Princess Xinyang did not mention moving back to Zhuke Avenue. Sheng Guanqing was also preparing to leave. He had stayed in Zhao country long enough, and needed to go back to accompany Sheng Guanyan. But because the two new guns that Xiao Heng promised to give him were not ready yet, he had to wait for a few more days. In late July, a bolt of lightning flashed over the capital. The power was like 10 tons of gunpowder exploding. The windows of the princess residence trembled. Xiao Yi, who was taking an afternoon nap, was woken up by the thunder. She was so scared that she cried loudly. Eugene and Princess Xinyang were in the flower room. The wet nurse was guarding the room. The wet nurse hurriedly picked up the little master. Xiao Yi screamed at the top of her lungs. Her loud and clear cries seemed to want to shake down the thunder. The wet nurse did not know whether she was noisier or the thunder. Who would have thought that as she cried and cried, she suddenly stopped crying. She opened her big teary eyes and looked unblinkingly at the door. She did not know when, but a handsome and cold youth in black clothes appeared there. The terrifying lightning circled above his head like a dragon, but it seemed to be blocked by him. Xiao Yi's little face was covered in tears as she stared at him blankly. The youth in black clothes walked in. He thought for a moment and took out the candied haws in his hand. He handed it to her and said, "Do you want to eat?" Xiao Yi. Digression. Xiao Yi. Immortal sister, can you give me a monthly vote? Double it. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that cannot be found on the internet are all here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/10471527 HTML Genius remembers this site's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 940. The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. There are novels with connotations that can't be found online here. This was the first time Xiao Yi met someone who wanted to give her hard candied haws. She didn't even have teeth. When Princess Xinyang and Eugene returned to their room from the greenhouse, Xiao Yi was being held in the arms of the young man in black. Her small hands were holding a string of shiny candied haws, and she was licking them. The wet nurse stood at the side, trembling with fear, not daring to even breathe loudly. She didn't know this person, but she couldn't snatch it away from him. Eugene looked at the young man who suddenly appeared and was shocked. Changjing. Marquis. In Marquis Xuanping's practice room, Xiaoji was helping Sheng Guanqing get into the horse dance when Steward Lu rushed over. "What's the matter?" Xiaoji glanced at him. Steward Lu raised his hand to wipe the sweat on his forehead and said with a smile while panting, "Changjing is back. He's with the princess." He said come back, not come. In everyone's heart, Changjing had long been regarded as a member of the Marquis' household. Sheng Guanqing looked at his father. Changjing, the black-clothed young master? Xiaoji's expression was very calm, but his following words revealed his urgency. He said to his son, "Get into the horse dance first. There's still an hour left today. Don't be lazy. I'll go over. Lu Huan, watch him." Steward Lu hurriedly said, "Yes, Marquis." Xiao Ji turned around and left. Shang Guanqing changed his posture in a second and stood up calmly. Steward Lu sighed helplessly. Wasn't it a waste to let him watch the young master? How could he win against this little sesame rice ball? Xiao Ji went to the princess's residence. As soon as he stepped into the courtyard, he realized that something was wrong. Chang Jing was back and should have come to the marquis's residence first. Why did he go to the princess's residence instead? Could it be that this fellow is still thinking about Qin Fengwan? Chang Jing had been attracted to the princess residence by Xiao Yi's cries, but Chang Jing's longing for Princess Xinyang was not fake. Princess Xinyang didn't like Xiao Ji, but she didn't dislike Chang Jing. Once, Chang Jing passed by a house on Vermilion Bird Avenue injured, and was seen by Princess Xinyang. She called him into the house and personally bandaged his wound. Since then, he would often pass by that place when he was injured. After his wounds were bandaged, he would occasionally freeload a meal before returning to the marquis's estate. Xiao Ji knew nothing about this. Chang Jing did not have a mother, only 7 older sisters. He felt the power of a mother from Princess Xinyang, and he liked Princess Xinyang very much. When Xiao Ji entered the house, Xiao Yi had already been snatched away by her mother. She had washed her hands and was lying obediently in the cradle. Chang Jing sat at the table and ate yangcha noodles. He was hungry, so he ate very fast. That was not the main point. The main point was that there were several exquisite dishes in front of him, all of which were his favorite. There were 2 possibilities. 1, he asked for it himself. 2, the princess residence prepared it for him. If it was the first possibility, he didn't treat himself as an outsider. If it was the second possibility, he really wasn't an outsider. The princess residence even knew what he liked. Xiao Ji suddenly felt that his status in the family had been affected. You guys chat. I still have something to do. Princess Xinyang saw him come over, so she took Yujin to the greenhouse to continue taking care of the newly bought peonies. The thunder had stopped, and the sky was dark. It looked like it would rain in the next second. Xiao Ji first looked at his youngest daughter. She was playing happily by herself. He sat down opposite Chang Jing. They hadn't seen each other for more than half a year, and Chang Jing had grown taller again. He had a heroic spirit between his eyebrows, but he was still a young man. Did you run away from home again? Xiao Ji asked indifferently. Chang Jing finished his noodles before replying. No. This time I didn't. Not this time. Xiao Ji observed him. He hadn't noticed before, but today he noticed that his eating manners weren't bad. It was obvious that he had been restrained by Qin Fengwan. Chang Jing finished his bowl of noodles and drank the broth clean. He placed his bowl and chopsticks properly. Xiao Ji's mood became even more subtle. I came to find you. Chang Jing went back to the topic. I thought you were dead, so I brought people to collect your body. Xiao Ji choked. Thank you. Chang Jing continued. After we arrived at the border of the Yan kingdom, we heard that you returned alive. Xiao Ji said indifferently. Then your father agreed to let you come all the way here to find me? Chang Jing said. No, he didn't agree. I couldn't leave the icy plains. Xiao Ji looked at him in amusement. Then why did you say you didn't run away from home? What's going on? Chang Jing said seriously. I told my father that you're my future father-in-law. You betrothed your daughter to me. He agreed to let me bring people to propose marriage. How can I have a daughter for you? Xiao Ji ate half of his noodles in disdain. His gaze turned and looked at Xiao Yi, who was playing with her feet in the cradle. He stood up and picked up the stool he had just sat on. How dare you have designs on my daughter? Chang Jing rushed to the door and explained. I didn't know you really had a daughter. I just said it casually. Chang Jing left the Zhao kingdom with Xiao Ji. The 2 of them didn't know that Princess Xinyang was pregnant. The ancient times weren't the information age, so the news of Princess Xinyang giving birth to a daughter couldn't spread to Dark Knight Island. Chang Jing was purely looking for a strong excuse to fool his father and 7 sisters. Xiao Ji didn't care. He was angry, very angry. He grabbed the stool and chased Chang Jing out of the mansion. Half an hour later, the 2 of them stood in the garden out of breath. They were about a dozen steps away from each other. Xiao Ji had an injury on his waist and couldn't chase him. Changjing's face was already bruised. Xiaoji glared at him, panting. He threw the stool away and turned to go back to the study. Changjing pursed her lips in grievance and limped after him. Xiaoji didn't sit well in the study. He got up and went to the princess's mansion. He picked up Xiao Yi from the cradle and said seriously, "You can't get married until you're 80 years old. Do you hear me?" Xiao Yi. Xiao Heng had just gone to take measurements. The imperial court wanted to make a junior assistant robe for him. After everything was ready, he would officially go to court to receive his title. The moment he returned to the mansion, he heard about Changjing's return and how she was beaten up by Xiao Ji. Coincidentally, Gu Jiao was free at the moment, so he went to the Marquis's mansion with Gu Jiao. They bumped into Xiao Ji, who came from the princess's mansion. "Father." Xiao Heng greeted him. "I heard that Changjing is back." His father missed Changjing and must be very happy. However, his father didn't look at him and snorted coldly. "Humph, Xiao Heng. What kind of reaction is this? Is he angry at me?" Xiao Heng asked Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao said, "I think he's angry at Changjing." "Why?" Xiao Heng didn't understand. He had just returned from outside and didn't know the details. Gu Jiao pointed to the piles of gifts in the courtyard. "Those are your sister's betrothal gifts." Xiao Heng. Changjing was joking, but Chang Kuren took it seriously. Not only did he let Changjing go back to Zhao country, but he also asked Uncle Li, who had watched Changjing grow up, to bring a lot of betrothal gifts to show his sincerity. This was truly a huge blunder. After the beating and scolding, it was time to ask about serious matters. The four sat down in the study. Changjing sat on the other side of Gu Jiao and used Gu Jiao to block Xiao Ji's murderous gaze. Xiao Ji was still angry and didn't want to talk to him. It was Xiao Heng who spoke. He asked, "Changjing, did you run into General Xianyuan and Liaochen on your way back?" Changjing was confused. "Why would I run into them?" Xiao Heng said, "They went to find the sword hut. They took the water route and left last month. You just came from that direction." The base of the sword hut was also on an island, not far from the Dark Night Island. Changjing shook his head. "I took the land route and didn't run into them." Because they had brought a lot of valuable betrothal gifts, they were worried that the boxes would get wet if they took the water route. So they chose the official road. Changjing thought deeply. Did they go to the sword hut to take revenge for what happened to the shadow department? If so, they might have come for nothing. "Why do you say that?" Xiao Heng asked. Changjing said, "The sword hut has been destroyed." Xiao Ji looked up and glanced at him impatiently. "Who did you hear that from?" Changjing said seriously, "I didn't hear it from anyone. I saw it with my own eyes. When spring came, my father took me to destroy the sword hut, the real sword hut." The sword hut thought that it had hidden well, but in reality, the Dark Night Island knew its exact location. However, Chang Kuan was not an ambitious person. If the sword hut didn't offend him, he wouldn't provoke the sword hut either. Xiao Ji frowned. "Why did your father want to destroy the sword hut?" Changjing felt wronged. "Isn't it because of you? My father died in the ice plains because of you. To make me feel better, he agreed to destroy your enemy, the sword hut." Strictly speaking, the sword hut was not Marquis Xianping's enemy. However, the sword hut had repeatedly attacked the Xianyuan family, Sheng Guanqing, and Gu Jiao. Marquis Xianping really wanted to destroy them. "Continue," Xiao Ji said. Changjing continued. "When the people of the Dark Knight sect went to the island of the sword hut, we found that there were corpses everywhere. There were no survivors. Someone had destroyed the sword hut before us. The weather was not hot, and the corpses were not badly decomposed. According to Uncle Li's guess, they were killed about 3 days ago." Gu Jiao made a sound of surprise. Who could be so powerful? The sword hut was arrogant. It was not strange for them to have enemies. But what kind of enemy could destroy the entire sword hut? Changjing said, "The wounds on those people were all the same. My father and Uncle Li both thought that they died under the sword of the same person." Gu Jiao opened her eyes wide. "You mean one person destroyed the entire sword hut?" Xiao Ji and Xiao Heng were silent. A name flashed through the hearts of the father and son at the same time. Xiao Heng narrowed his eyes and said, Long Yi. Digression Long Yi Lulu. The latest chapter of this book is not finished. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. Novels with connotations that cannot be found on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/1046985540. HTML Genius will remember this site's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 941. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet are all available here. Gu Jiao nodded. Yes, it's like Long Yi. Long Yi is going to find the sword hut, and other than him, I can't think of anyone else who has such strength. Cough cough. Xiaoji coughed heavily. The three of them looked at him in unison. Xiaoheng was speechless. Father, this is not the time to pretend, right? Gu Jiao touched her delicate little chin and said, Long Yi and you all went to the Sword Hut Island at the beginning of spring. Xian Yuanqi and the young master of the Sword Hut left with the sect master's sword last month. It seems that there is indeed another way to enter the Sword Hut Island. Chang Jing confirmed her guess. Yes, the entrance of the Sword Hut Island is full of mechanisms, but we know a secret passage. I don't know how Long Yi went up. Did he also go through that secret passage? Xiaoji raised his eyebrows. It's not certain whether it was Long Yi or not. Although he said this, he understood in his heart that if the Sword Hut was really exterminated by someone, that person could only be Long Yi. Gu Jiao frowned in confusion. But why did Long Yi exterminate the Sword Hut? He is a member of the Sword Hut. Does he have a deep hatred with the Sword Hut? Xiaoheng paused and guessed. He didn't complete the mission given to him by the Sword Hut in the past. Perhaps the Sword Hut wanted to clean up the sect, so they made a move against him first. Gu Jiao pondered and nodded. That makes sense. But I still don't understand. Why did Long Yi give up his mission at that time? He suddenly didn't kill Xian Yuanqi. It's really strange. Xiaoheng sighed. We can only wait for Long Yi to come back to know the truth. I hope he has already recovered all his memories. Gu Jiao. Xiaoheng grasped Gu Jiao's hand and felt relieved. No matter what, since the Sword Hut has been destroyed, your danger has been resolved. What danger? Chang Jing was confused. She looked at Gu Jiao and asked, Does someone from the Sword Hut want to kill you? It was a long story. Gu Jiao thought about it and said, Something like that. Gu Jiao was the commander of the Black Wind Cavalry of the Xianyuan family. She had a grudge with the Sword Hut at the border. It was not strange that the people of the Sword Hut wanted to kill her. Thinking of this, Chang Jing did not suspect anything and said, Then you don't have to worry. That's not right. You said that the Sword Hut still has a young master. Oh, don't worry, he was poisoned by the goo poison on the island. When he returns, he will find that the goo master who can detoxify the poison is dead. Even if he survives, his martial arts will be crippled. Gu Jiao asked, I forgot to ask earlier. He is the young master. Why was he poisoned? Xiaoheng analyzed. I guess it was an internal struggle. The island master's wife did not like this illegitimate son, and wanted her nephew to be the young master. Thus, she played some tricks on him and lured him out of the island. But now, it seems that he has profited from this disaster, and avoided dying under Long Yi's sword. Chang Jing nodded. Right, the island master and his wife are dead. That whatever nephew is also dead. It seemed that everything in the dream had changed Long Yi. What kind of little angel was Long Yi? If he wanted to argue with her again, she would definitely not refuse. Gu Jiao looked at Xiaoheng. It has been several months since the beginning of spring. Where did Long Yi go? Will he return? Xiaoheng shook his head. I don't know. When Shirtian regains his identity and memories, no one could guarantee what kind of life he would choose in the future. What did these years of being Long-E mean to him? Was it a beautiful past worth recalling or an unbearable experience that he wanted to erase? Coming out of the study, Xiaoji saw Uncle Li, who was directing the servants to carry the betrothal gifts. Xiaoji had a deep impression of him. When he and Changjing had just arrived at the Dark Night Island, this person had received them. Uncle Li's full name was Li Jiangping. He was an elder in the Dark Knight sect. Xiaoji politely called him Elder Li. Marquis Xiao. Li Jiangping smiled and cupped his hands. Li Jiangping had been in the Dark Knight sect for many years and was highly regarded by Chang Kuan. In addition to his high martial arts and loyalty, he was also very careful. He was a very rare expert who was both rough and meticulous. More importantly, he loved Changjing very much. Changjing glanced at Uncle Li and said to Xiaoji, "This time, thanks to Uncle Li speaking up for me. Otherwise, my father would not have agreed to this marriage." Xiaoji was burning with anger. There was no marriage at all. Changjing felt wronged. "I meant to find an excuse to come out and see you. Also, you owe me a few boxes of marbles." Xiaoji's body trembled. This is your real purpose for leaving the island. He really didn't want to see this brat anymore. He put his hands behind his back and walked forward angrily. Thinking of something, he turned back and warned sternly, "You're not allowed to play with marbles for Yi. It's very dangerous." Changjing said, "The princess already told me that I can't let her play with the little things." Xiaoji clenched his fists. As expected, "You're so familiar with Qin Fengwan. I think you want to go to heaven." Li Jiangping laughed dryly and looked at Xiaoji. "Marquis Xiao, you see," Xiaoji said faintly, "you know the truth. He just came out to play. Take back the betrothal gifts. I won't marry into the Dark Night Island." Li Jiangping hurriedly said, "Marquis Xiao, don't be in a hurry to refuse." Xiaoji said coldly, "What? My daughter is only 8 months old. Do you really want my daughter to marry over?" Li Jiangping hurriedly waved his hand and said with a smile, "No, that's not what I meant. It's like this. In order to come back to see you, the young master had no choice but to do this. In his heart he respects you as his father. If the sect master finds out that he told such a big lie, he will definitely be heavily punished. I have a compromise. It won't make things difficult for the Marquis, and it can also let the young master avoid punishment." "What is it?" Xiaoji asked. Li Jiangping said what he was thinking. The Marquis can choose a well-educated woman from the capital and adopt her as his adopted daughter. She will marry into the Dark Night Island. What do you think? And Jiaojiao was also Duke En's adopted daughter. She would marry Aheng as Duke En's daughter. Xiaoji felt that this method was not bad. "Do you agree?" he asked Changjing. Changjing said, "If you find someone I like, I will agree." Xiaoji asked him, "Then what kind of person do you like?" Changjing thought seriously for a moment, then said, "Someone like the princess." Xiaoji punched down, and a large bump appeared on Changjing's head. Li Jiangping's method was not bad. Xiaoji temporarily arranged for him and the disciples of the Dark Night Island to live in the Marquis Manor. The betrothal gifts were first placed in the storeroom, and the key was given to Li Jiangping for safekeeping. Xiaoji's attitude was very clear. These things still belonged to the Dark Night Island. He would not take them. When Li Jiangping arranged for the disciples to move the betrothal gifts, a small accident occurred. His hand pressed against a rusty nail, nearly piercing through his palm. When the news reached the Princess Manor, the family was preparing to eat dinner. Gu Jiao stood up and said to Princess Xianyang, "Xiaoji, Xiaoheng and Changjing, you eat first. I will go take a look." "I will go with you." Xiaoheng also put down his chopsticks. "Do you need a medicine box?" "Yes," Gu Jiao said. "Wait for me here." Xiaoheng went to the Lanting courtyard to get the medicine box, and went to the Marquis Manor with Gu Jiao and Changjing. Outside the storeroom, Li Jiangping sat on a small stool. His injured left hand was wrapped in a handkerchief by a disciple of the Dark Night sect. "Let me take a look," Gu Jiao said to him. Li Jiangping looked at Gu Jiao in shock, and then looked at Changjing. Changjing said, "Young madam is a doctor." Li Jiangping suddenly understood. I see. But perhaps it was because of the difference between men and women. He smiled awkwardly and said with some embarrassment, Then I will have to trouble young madam. Xiao Heng had someone bring a table and put the medicine box on it. Gu Jiao opened the medicine box and took out saline to clean his wound. Let me see what kind of nail it is, he said to the disciple of the Dark Knight sect. The disciple of the Dark Knight sect walked forward and handed Gu Jiao a bloody nail wrapped in a clean handkerchief. Gu Jiao frowned. It really is a rusty nail. It seemed that he had to get tetanus. Gu Jiao looked inside. But it was not an immune tetanus. It was the kind that required a skin test. Bear with it, Gu Jiao said to Li Jiangping. Li Jiangping looked curiously at Gu Jiao's medicine box and said in a daze, Okay. Speaking of which, young madam, what kind of treatment method is this? I have never seen it before. Gu Jiao said. It was created by my master, so it is not convenient to disclose it. Li Jiangping smiled and tactfully didn't pursue the matter. Instead he said, I presume young madam's master is a hidden expert. The first island master of our Dark Knight Island was also an expert. Changjing. Xiao Heng called out to Changjing. Changjing understood and said to the disciples of the Dark Knight sect, You can leave first. I will call you later. Yes. Everyone left. Gu Jiao took out the needle and tested it. Li Jiangping was in so much pain that he made an emoji. After 15 minutes, there were no adverse reactions. Gu Jiao injected tetanus into his muscles. Li Jiangping contributed another wave of emojis. Changjing said to Li Jiangping, Uncle Li, it is enough that you know young madam's medical skills. Don't mention it to outsiders. Li Jiangping wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and said, An ordinary man is innocent, but treasuring a jade ring is a crime. I understand, don't worry. Changjing stayed behind to take care of Li Jiangping, and the young couple returned to the princess residence. Gu Jiao had just sat down when she found a bowl of medicine in front of her. Princess Xinyang said lightly, The medicine is ready. Drink it first. I have asked the imperial doctor. This prescription is more effective when taken before meals. Gu Jiao sighed for her secretly. Whatever prescription was useless. After all, Taotao was so powerful. Xiao Heng looked at the dark medicine. He could guess how bitter it was without tasting it. He leaned close to Gu Jiao and whispered, Don't drink it. It's okay. She drank the medicine and almost vomited. Today's medicine is so bitter. Princess Xinyang wondered. Is it bitter? Isn't it the same as yesterday? Xiao Heng couldn't bear to see his dear wife continue to be tortured by the bitter medicine. He decided to tell his mother the truth. Mother, actually we don't plan to. A plate of soft and oily braised pork trotters was placed in front of Gu Jiao. It looked, smelled, and tasted good. There was Gu Jiao's favorite rice chili in it. Unexpectedly, Gu Jiao only took a sniff before she suddenly turned around and retched. Digression. The last day is double. Little cutie with monthly votes. Remember to vote. The latest chapter of this book is not finished. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1046966959. HTML Genius remembers the website address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.